Hello, everyone, and welcome to STARCASTERS, the coolest expanded universe podcast on YouTube. Welcome, John SW. Welcome, Ghost Fixter, to the stream. I forgot to change the title. I'm going to go do that real quick. Jular and Gabriel, introduce yourselves.
I am July.
Go
You've
first?
seen me from the last two episodes.
Well, I'm Gabriel. I have been in the last two episodes as well. So, there you go.
Yeah,
I
today
make
we're
Star
talking
Wars
about...
content. That's it.
Yep. I make gaming content, which includes Star Wars. And today we're talking about the Revan book specifically, but we'll be talking, of course, about Revan within KOTOR, KOTOR 2, or like mentions of KOTOR 2, and a little bit of SWTOR, although I don't think we're all fully up to date on the SWTOR lore, so that might come at a later date.
And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about, other Old Republic things, where we're hoping the brand will go from here with Fate of the Old Republic and canon, although, trust me, we won't talk too much about canon. Welcome, Michael. Good to have you back in the chat. Yeah, I'm excited for this episode. I've always been huge on Revan. I was telling the boys a little bit earlier that I can hear myself through one of your mics. It's making it hard for me to talk. I don't know if you probably can't do anything about it, but not a big deal. But my gamer tag as a kid on Xbox was Revan X99. You can go friend me if you want. I don't use it anymore, but I've always loved KOTOR and Revan. So this one's particularly exciting, especially since all three of us are divided on the issue. There's no Star Wars news to talk about, so we're just going to jump straight into the topic, which is that I actually like the Revan novel. It's not my favorite. There's a lot of things I didn't like about it. The number one thing I didn't like about it is what it wasn't. I like it. I dislike it more for what it wasn't than I do dislike it for what it was. But I was okay with it. I thought it was cool. There's parts of it I like that we can talk about after we get our opinions out of the way. But overall, I'm in favor of the Revan novel. Jular, what about yourself?
I disliked its premise, having read about it online before actually reading the novel, just how it canonized certain things, what it did with certain characters. I immediately had like a hate boner for it. But after reading it, and especially reading it more recently, it feels like it's more like a roller coaster of like thinking like this book's really good, like it's going up, and then you get to the end, and then that's when all the hate boner buff comes back, and it just drops off a cliff. And that's my problem with the book. It's like the last 3 chapters.
Gabriel, how about yourself?
For me, it was very much. I was having issues the whole way through, but when I was going through the book for the first time, I was thinking I can put that aside. I'm someone that I can put aside a lot of flaws and enjoy something. And I was putting things aside, and I was thinking I could still. It's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. And then the ending happened, and I just thought, you know what? I'm sick of forgiving this book. I just don't like it. I don't like it at all. I hate it. So yeah, that's what I thought.
The ending is where the contention normally comes about. Yeah. So both of you mentioned the premise, I think. I know I did. Let's talk a little bit about the premise of the Revan novel. Now, I believe, one of you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are only 5 expanded universe or otherwise novels set in the Old Republic era. Am I right on that?
That's around about right, yeah. There's a lot
of Bane trilogy
comics
also
as
counts,
well.
But
I
think the Bane trilogy pretty much I would consider, although it's part of the Old Republic era, that is like the end of the Old Republic, in my opinion, when the Bane trilogy happens, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty much so when that all finishes up.
If we factor in Bane, that's 8, right? No, that's...
Yeah, there's not many. 7. And there's, what is there's it, only... Lost Tribe, but that's like a collection of short stories, which is kind of just like... I'm not sure I'd even count that as a book. Although you can
and there's
buy
only
it as, like,
4
one.
In this vein that are tied directly to the game, because these are essentially marketing material for the Old Republic. That's why they have that title. That's why the branding is exactly the same. And it's why this came out in 2011, I think only a month or 2 before that game itself.
But the interesting thing about this book that that I found helps it stand out from those other 4, not counting Bane, the other 4 books all take place in the exact same time period as the MMO. They've got Malgus. One of them I think is about Malgus. But this specific book takes place like 300 years before, because it details like 2 or 3 years right after the first game, and the second like a year or 2 after the second game for sure. So it's really, if you're looking at it, it's the only novel we have that takes place in the KOTOR era, because the other 4 take place
really
in the
it's a KOTOR book. It's not a Tor book.
Yeah,
it is just for those 2 games. Yeah, it's the only one. And that's where its strongest part is, because there's a time jump in the middle. It's literally about 57% of the way through. That first bit is the strongest part when it's like all about KOTOR, and that is what Drew Karpyshyn, that's what he wrote, so that is his characters. He does that perfectly. It's when he has to introduce characters that aren't his OC, it's where it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I think he struggles with characters that aren't his own, personally. Even KOTOR, when they're not his, I don't think he does as good a job of them, and it doesn't give them what they deserve sometimes, or they're not as interesting.
And that's kind of a running theme in Star Wars books and just books in general, probably. But it really is a special kind of talent to be able to take a character that somebody else wrote, empathize and understand the intentions of that character from the original author, and then uphold them. How many times have we gotten books or games or shows or even movies that were written by somebody else, and you're like, this character's not acting like they were before?
Yeah, I think we talked
last week's episode.
Mara, and how so many people fumble. It's funny considering how popular she is, how fumbled she also is, and you can say the same with this book.
You see it with the movie characters. They'll get Luke wrong. They'll get like characters that have pretty like well-defined personalities across 6 hours of film, if not longer, and then they'll get it wrong somehow.
Yeah,
yeah, and
like
so
the sequels.
That does seem to be one of Karpyshyn's weaknesses, it seems, is upholding characters that he himself didn't write. And that was another thing I was actually kind of disappointed in with the book, because one of the reasons I like it are specifically when Revan is fighting alongside the Mandalorians, all of the conversations between Revan and Canderous. They have a lot of back and forth. They go in, they find whatever that in the big snowy mountain, that Sith tomb or whatever, and then Canderous has to make a call, and he has to choose his loyalty to Revan. It's really cool stuff, but I do remember lamenting that we didn't get more KOTOR characters coming back. Like, I think he mentions Mission.
He mentions, Mission and Big Z, who have like a trading company. And
that's a big issue for me.
Yeah, well, Juhani's a Jedi now, which I could see, but Jolee is back in the Order, which I don't see how that could happen.
Yeah,
that doesn't line up with Jolee Bindo from the first game for him to be like, you know what, Jedi Order's actually good now. I'm going back.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I feel like it might have been better as well, rather than just doing a Revan novel, to do like a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic and talk about all the characters and not just have him as the protagonist and, touch more on what everyone else is doing. I feel like, and I'll talk more on this later, Bastila in particular, if she wasn't with Revan, like romantically, would have also been sidelined. Well, she already was.
And you know what? I actually thought the book didn't handle her
mentioned.
character very well either.
No.
That is probably my second biggest issue with the book. I hate the way that
she's just wife and mother. Like, oh, was she a Jedi? I can't remember. Like, that's literally like all she is now.
Yeah.
I'll say about Bastila, I honestly think it's almost like insulting. And some people don't like Bastila, but she was my favourite character in Knights of the Old Republic. I love her, and I feel like her entire character was just not apparent. Like, she was a wife and mother, and that was it. And I think having a child and stuff, that can be a good reason a lot of the time to not do as much. It can be a good reason to write a character out of something as much as it's irritating. But I just felt like she was devoid of all the fire and energy that she has in the first game. She is a hothead in the first game, and that's part of why I really liked her. She has ego. She is far from a great Jedi at the beginning, and it's why she so easily turns in the game.
Yeah, it's why she falls to the dark side, because she has a lot of problems.
Yeah. And although she gets better from those problems, I feel like she doesn't she shouldn't just change into a completely different person. None of that stuff is there. I feel like she, as somebody, as her character, would have been more against just staying behind. And in fact, I don't like her staying behind, and I don't think they do enough to justify her not coming along with Revan. I don't think... I always liked the idea in KOTOR 2 that Revan just went off. Like, maybe Revan thought he wanted to protect her and just went off on his own, rather than giving her the decision and her deciding, oh, you know what, I'm going to stay.
I think it would have
I
been
don't
better.
think she would do that.
I think it would have made more sense if he had like lied to her and deceived her and be like, okay, I give up, you can come, and then just left.
Yeah, I think that would have been almost sad as well, because it could have been quite an emotional moment. But it's worse when you consider how many times the same has been done better. Leia in the Thrawn trilogy, she's pregnant and has Jason and Jaina, and she fights the whole way through. Mara in the New Jedi Order, she's pregnant with a terminal illness and fights the whole way through. And then when she beats that terminal illness and gives birth, she keeps fighting right afterwards. That is just so much better writing of these characters. And it's the type of thing I think Bastila would do. Now, I don't think it's not just a problem. I think it's totally fair if we have a female character that has a child and decides, okay, I'm just going to take care of this child, because many fathers would do that as well. But I think it doesn't fit Bastila. I don't think she would do that. I think she's almost so hot-headed that she would want to fight so much that Revan might have to say, come on, think about our child. Like, I feel like he would be the one telling her that, not her settling on that. That's probably a big issue for me, and it doesn't feel like her character. It's not satisfying for where she goes. I just really don't like how she's written in that. It's probably one of the biggest issues for me that I take proper massive offense with. The
only time I agreed with it was when she had, is it Vana? I think it might be pronounced like Honor, like Vana, like her son, essentially, Revan's son. When he's like 3 years old and she wants to go with Mitra Surik, which is the Jedi exile from KOTOR 2, she does then think in her head, like she says, oh, I'm coming, and she realizes like, well, I can't just abandon my child, and I can't bring my child on this like death trap, on this mission, because he's a sentient being, and you can't make a choice. Whereas like I agree that when she was pregnant, it's a bit different, because I feel like she's only like 3 weeks pregnant. I don't think that would have really set in unless Revan actually, like you said, stepped in and said like, no, you have to look after our child. I think at 3 weeks pregnant, she would have been like, no, I'm still here. I'm gonna help you. So the only time I agree with her stepping back was when she actually has that child that she's only been a mother for like 3 years at that point, and she's only that's all she's been doing, right? She put herself into exile. She went into hiding.
She could have went while pregnant, had the baby, and took care of the baby while doing all that. It's another thing to leave your child behind, especially as you said, after only having been a mother for a few years. I feel like any parent, you would think, I'm not giving up anything for my child. I'm gonna take care of my child. That's how you would feel, I think.
Yeah.
And so that makes more sense. I still think maybe would she have brought him with, I don't know. I feel like she would have, as I said, initially she would think, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to take my child, and then I think she would probably think, okay, that's not realistic.
Yeah, because if you get hurt, the child could also die. I don't think there was any way Bastila should have gone, but like I said earlier, the way I would have liked
she should have fought to have gone more.
Is if she should have tried to make a poor decision and had Revan like relent and then disappear, because it offers like some drama, some betrayal. When Mitra comes to see Bastila, she's like, I should be there with him, but like he didn't give me a chance, he lied to me. Like, it just would have made everything a bit, they play Revan too straightforward to be a character known for being ambiguous and kind of like
because when we meet Bastila in KOTOR 2, and just that very brief scene, and she talks about Revan disappearing, I always thought it was a mysterious thing, like she doesn't know why he's gone, and she didn't know he'd gone. He just disappeared. Yeah. And I like the idea more that he just disappeared and nobody knows why except for him, because he didn't want to get anyone else involved. Yeah, like he just I pictured it as he just went away in the night and just left her, and she knows that he's not heartless and that he would have done it for a reason, but she doesn't have any idea what the reason is or where he went or anything like that. And I just feel like adding in this whole story was a pointless issue. It just created a pointless issue that didn't need to be made. Sometimes, like as we'll talk about with the characterization of Revan and obviously Mitra Surik, the exile, they were things that needed to be done. And I have issues with them, but they were things they had to do. I'm not sure this had to be done for the story. I don't think it was necessary, which is probably why it's a bigger issue for me.
That's why I actually have some arguments written down with his appearance that they canonize. Like, you think, well, they have to do that. It's a book, part of the medium is you have to explain what characters look like. But then I thought, like, well, do you? Because he never actually, because I read it recently, he doesn't explain what Malik looks like. He just assumes you know KOTOR, you know what Malik looks like. I feel like he could have approached the appearance of Revan the same way. Like, you don't necessarily have to describe exactly what he looks like, because he's the one you can pick that has a beard and like long hair swept back.
Yeah, I think they did that so that because I think when they were developing the MMO, they had already planned to include him.
Yeah, that he was going to include him.
The Shadow of Revan DLC. It did come out later, but I'm sure they already said somewhere it's like, we really want to use Revan, so please just give him a canonical appearance.
I think it's like he could have worn his mask for like did they have to demask him? I guess maybe they could have kept his demasking to be like a bigger thing later, like with Halo, before they fumbled that one.
Yeah,
something like that.
I'm not sure if Revan, for me, even needs to wear his mask again, because I feel like almost what it symbolized during that whole crusade against the Mandalorians is not something he stands for anymore. And I'm not sure him even wearing it is right. Like, would he not say, actually, no, I'm not going to wear that?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I'm not that person anymore.
He doesn't really have any reason to wear it. It's just marketing.
No.
It's just like, oh, it's cool to see him in the thing again. Like, that's really.
I hate to.
And I guess it was 4 years after in a dungeon, right? So maybe he's not thinking as straight as he would have been had he found it. Like
he's like, I need my
at the
memories
start of the
back.
book.
I'll put this mask on.
Boom.
Mandalore the Ultimate's mask will give me my as much as I lament to bring up the sequel trilogy, it is kind of like the fact in Episode 8, Rian Johnson made a point of Kylo Ren destroying his mask to symbolize some kind of like impending character development, and then the 9th episode he just rebuilds it and puts it back on for marketing, obviously, because the mask is sellable for merchandise.
Yeah. I think unlike the whole RPG thing as well, I think we were talking about right before about Revan being, sort of canonized. That is one which I again think is somewhat a necessary evil if you're going to write a book about the character. But for me, the problem I had, and this is something I forgive because I understand why, but when I played KOTOR, Revan became one of my favourite characters in Star Wars, because the guy that I had played I found so interesting. And then when I read the book, he stopped being one of my favourite characters, because the guy he had been made into, I didn't think he was that interesting. And that's an issue with Revan in this book. I don't think he's that interesting.
Well, he doesn't really get to do that much either, and that's kind of...
No, he didn't get to do much. Too. He's not got much of a personality. He's kind of used as a device to set up the MMO.
Yeah, it would have been more accurate to call the book Scourge, but they couldn't sell that as easily.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Scourge is like an agent in the book.
He gets as many chapters.
Well,
no, he gets more chapters than Revan. I think he gets more chapters than Revan. They basically flip in chapters through the first half in the book. It's like one chapter Revan, one chapter Scourge, back and forth. And then after the time jump, it's just
Scourge is such a good character. I think that made up for it. I think for me, I don't think Scourge is like exceptional, but I did really enjoy Scourge and his parts, which I didn't expect. I thought it was quite a good story.
Too, but it's so painful. A lot of media does this, but I really don't like it when something comes out that uses the name of a character and then a different character gets like more screen time, or they're clearly the titular character should not be playing the supporting role, and that kind of is the case with the Revan book, unfortunately.
Yeah, the only time I've been almost forgiving of that is the Dark Lord book, but it's more 50-50. That book, it's like 50% Vader, 50% this sort of Jedi character, and that whole story anyway links to Vader, and they collide multiple times before the end.
It's a little bit different if your titular character is like a force of nature like Vader, but Revan spends half the book in a prison cell.
Yeah. And Scourge isn't even like his foil either, it's not like, oh, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, they're gonna fight eventually.
Yeah.
Like they end up like they team up at the end, like, and Scourge becomes like his apprentice in later lore, so it's not really the same thing. It's just more like, here's our new character that's gonna be in the MMO, get hyped, and here's Revan as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem for me is we talk about all the issues, it all comes back to, it's just marketing. This book to me, it's just marketing. It's just marketing the MMO. It's just setting up the MMO. And that's something that's
it worked. I re-downloaded it like after reading the book because he spends so much time describing like the architecture and like what the planets look like, and I remembered like, oh, that's actually what the planet looked like in the game, and I wanted to I re-downloaded it to be like, was it right? Oh, yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, that's literally what I did.
I wrote in my notes, and this is an odd note for me, but it would just stand out how well written the planets were. I remember feeling like the description of the planets was so good. I could perfectly visualize them, even though I've only played a little bit of the game. And that was something that I really enjoyed, all the different planets and the way they were described.
Droman was perfect.
It's so good.
The dead planet is exactly like in the game. It's perfect.
Dude, this is unrelated, but my first exposure to Dromund Kaas was the MMO, like over a decade ago. But I think it was the year before last, I did a video on Mysteries of the Sith, and you go to Dromund Kaas and Mysteries of the Sith, and it looks like it does in the MMO, but like more abandoned and dead, which I thought was so interesting because those games are like a decade plus apart. Because Mysteries of the Sith, I think, is 1998, and SWTOR is 2012, but they look similar to be.
That's the strength of like Legends when it's done well, right? Like it's carried through.
Yeah.
Like
Welcome to
there's a
stream,
level of respect for like the
Hardlick
older games.
7406. Yeah, Mysteries of the Sith, highly recommend. It's hard, it's a bitch to play, and it's really annoying, and it's clearly one of those old games that was like trying to be intentionally obtuse, so you'd buy a strategy guide. But have you played Mysteries of the Sith, Gabriel?
No, but
You'd love it.
I've considered it because
you spend over half of it.
I
as
know
Mara
you
Jade.
play as Mara. I know that it's weird because I know somehow she's trained by what's his name again?
Kyle.
Kyle. I know that
Kind of, like briefly.
in some law she trains him later on. So it's a bit of a weird thing to explain away, but I'm interested just because it's a fun novelty to be able to play as Mara. I mean, when are we ever going to get the chance to do that?
He's
again?
always in need of training. His character is like he's kind of a terrible Jedi really because he started training like really late in life, so he
And
always
also,
needs training.
I can't explain that to you, Gabriel, by the way. What happened, the reason that is, we're going on a little tangent here, is because when Kyle is training Mara in Mysteries of the Sith, it's post Dark Forces 2, pre-Jedi Outcast. And so he knows a little bit more than her at that time because he's been training with Luke a little bit already. But after the events where Mara Jade fights him, Kyle, spoilers, falls to the dark side, he rejects the Force and he spends like 3 years cut off from the Force, not training. And in that time, Mara surpasses Kyle. So when he comes back in Jedi Outcast, he has to go through the trials, get his lightsaber back, and reconnect himself to the Force. Then later is when she's training him. So it does add up canonically.
Yeah. And as much as she leaves the academy, she never stops. Like, she doesn't train formally, but she uses a lightsaber and she uses the Force. So
Which she
she's
does
naturally.
for 3 years.
Yeah, so that makes it does make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have that
And she's like
in-game
kind of like
knowledge.
Kyle in that regard. Like Kyle, his training is literally what you do in like Jedi Outcast. It's like a 1 hour. It's like a 30-minute tutorial. Like that's his Jedi training done, done and dusted. Boom.
Yeah, and it's really just teaching the player how to use the Force powers.
Yeah, there's literally it. Like yeah.
We need to do a whole
he's not
episode on
he's
Dark
not the
Forces.
strongest Jedi. Yeah.
And there's
So
also the
back
weird
to
little tie-in books.
Oh yeah.
They're
Well,
all
that's
right.
like-
They're really not that great.
I've heard they're not very good.
They're fine, but they're clearly just little tie-in books from the late '90s for video games that people they weren't giving the attention that they really needed, and had the people at the time known how big the games would have been better. Do y'all have a council
They were like
name? I
the
don't know what that
opposite
means.
of this. Like whereas this is a book like to advertise their game. That was like a
Yeah.
book that was advertised by the game. Like they're aiming at like people who've already played the game to want to
I
buy this
think
book.
with Revan, they knew at that time how many people were reading the books and how many
Yeah.
people liked them, and that by making a book to advertise the game, it would work and it would sell people on it.
It worked.
But well, that's the thing with it. Like Kopishin is like he's a good writer. Like I think the book was like really well written. Other than some choices he made, like it was fun to read. Like I never got bored. Like I've read it over the last 4 books.
I think
like
so as well.
I sped through it. Like
Such-
I really liked the fight scenes especially because they sound like they're explained like as if it was a game. Like a lot of the fights they could have been in total. Like it'll start with like Scourge is in the middle and like 3 droids come up in front of him and he has to like take them out one by one, and they talk like, oh, he uses like this power on this one and like he slashes the other one. It feels like it is a fight in a
He's a
KOTOR
great
1.
I love
writer.
that. Yeah.
Like I really like that. It
Why
tied in.
Bane is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first Bane book is one of the most well written books in the entire franchise. Just
I've
purely
actually
story,
tended to cite
characters,
it, yeah.
prose. Yeah, it's so good, and that's what makes me. All of his other books are really good, but that's what makes me respect him so much as an author. Is that book is like one of the best written things
It's
I've ever
kind of
read
insane
on
that
Star
they
Wars.
haven't given him more Star Wars book. I've frequently
I know.
cited that first Bane book is arguably the best expanded universe novel. I remember because I was listening to the audiobook for the first time, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago, and when it got to the part where he straight up bites a dude's finger off, and like Carpathian is describing like the sensation of his like finger free floating in his mouth and the blood filling the gaps between his teeth. I was like, is this Star Wars? What am I reading right now?
It's so
And he, like,
good,
spits
and I
the
couldn't
finger
believe
out.
like, yeah, I couldn't believe it, and like talk about his dad beating him, and then killing his dad, like, all this awful stuff.
It's
like,
so
I couldn't
good!
Believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it.
It's probably the
that's
best
the thing with,
expanded
like,
universe novel.
When
It's
he
one of my
describes
top ones.
Tenebrae, who like becomes the emperor, like his childhood and stuff, I thought that was like really like well established. Although I will say, in hindsight, I think it's exactly the same story as like Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter. I'm sure like Harry Potter was influenced by a lot of things as well, but it's the same thing. Like, oh, he's like an orphan child his father's like a great like rich lord, but his father doesn't want him, and then he kills his parents and orphans himself, and like from a child they know he's like super creepy and weird, like he's not like a normal person. Like it's exactly the same thing. Like they know he's evil from the moment he's born, basically.
My father called me Bane because I was the bane of his existence. So edgy. Star Wars is at its best when it's mad edgy, bro.
Yeah. I think the Sith are the edgiest.
Darth Cedric's in this book actually says like he hates how all the racial, like the genetic Sith have like the lamest names. Like, he's like, why do you call yourself like Lord Scourge? It's like the worst thing possible. Like I love that he points out like your names are so stupid.
I love that the Sith are just like super dangerous theater kids a lot of times, it seems like, which I love that about them. I love that they're like really dramatic, but people don't call them out on it because they'll also kill you. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like they earn it. They're like, yes, I know I'm being dramatic, but I'll also kill you if you point it out. That's a great question, by the way. John asks, what's the first Star Wars book that you guys read? Do you remember? Because I remember mine. Do you remember yours?
Yeah, I do. Heir to the Empire.
Oh, that's a great first one.
Episode 2 tie-in, but like the episode 2 novelization.
The novelization. Really? I haven't read that one yet. I've been wanting to.
I haven't, but I'm curious because the author writes the first book of the New Jedi Order, and he's really, really good. So I do want to give that a shot. I think he's only wrote two Star Wars books. I think those are the only two he ever did, which is crazy because he's so good at like sci-fi.
Yeah.
Man, you guys.
Like, I found it more interesting because it has so much of the like deleted scenes from episode 2. Like if you've seen those deleted scenes, obviously they're in the book because he was working off completed scripts that had stuff cut out.
I'm really excited for that one. I have to. That's next on my list as soon as I finish Rogue Planet audiobook, which, as I've said, I have not listened to any more since the last podcast because every time I start to, I just feel dread because I'm just gonna. I might not finish it, honestly. That might be.
You might just read the plot like summary on the wiki, to be honest.
Honestly,
I'm doing these for reviews. I'm doing review videos of the Star Wars books in chronological order on my Patreon. So I was like, oh, I gotta finish. But that might just be part of my review. It's like it was so boring. I actually didn't.
To say you couldn't finish it. Yeah.
And I moved on to episode 2.
Because it ties into the New Jedi Order, I bought it and I was going to read it before, and I ended up just putting it down and reading up the plot online. And you don't even need to, honestly, because when it becomes relevant to the New Jedi Order, they have a chapter and it just explains everything that you need to know from that book. So
nothing happens.
Nothing happens. So the fact that they can have one little flashback chapter in an NJO book to explain the whole of everything important about that book, I think explains why it's not even worth reading, really, in my opinion.
You know, that's something I've applauded George Lucas for a bunch of times, actually. And real quick, my first Star Wars book ever was Heirs to the Force. But the thing that Lucas is so good at is keeping you entertained with his pacing. All of the Star Wars movies, almost all of the story. Actually, I think all of them open on kind of like a cold open. It's an action sequence. There's something to get into. It's kind of connected to the plot, but it's not directly. Then you move into the plot stuff. Always lots of good action sequences. And you would think that you wouldn't be able to find a Star Wars novel that was void of action sequences. But Rogue Planet has no action at all, anywhere. It's all talking.
Yeah.
And it's all talking about a planet.
To give an example as well, like, there's a New Jedi Order book, which is famous traitor for being insanely philosophical and almost completely dialogue. That still has incredible action scenes and like some of the most epic, awesome action sequences I've ever read. I feel like in Star Wars, that's sort of a part of the whole thing. Like, even if you're going to do a smaller scale story, which I think you can do, it's that whole style that George Lucas always does of opening on an action piece. It doesn't have to be related to the main story of the film. In fact, it usually isn't. It ends up, I think there's only a few cases, like the original film, where that's like really important. But a lot of the time, it really has nothing to do with what comes on. It's to get you into it, to hook you in with some really good action, and then even
loosely connected, but not directly.
Yeah. But they weren't afraid to say like this is an adventure film. Like this is, the action's a part of it. It's not just
shut up. Thank you,
to be talking. And I feel like the books work best when they remember that, Well, that's what this book again is like really well written. I think the fight scenes were like really done. I love like just some stuff like Lord Scourge jumps sideways off a cave wall at one point, like stuff like that. I think it's just super cool. That's when he's fighting Darth Cedric, which is like the old human Dark Counselor, and it's like one of his first tests. Yeah,
I like when Revan fights Tenebrae like initially. I dislike it once everyone else joins in, but when it's just him and Tenebrae fighting, that sequence towards the end, I loved that. Like that part of the fight, I thought was really good.
What was
And
the
then
name
like
of
both
his?
using the Force and stuff.
What was the name of the little guy who kept like following Scourge around and being really annoying? You guys
Setchel.
remember? Setchel, was that him?
Yeah, Setchel is like he's an aide of Nyrus, but
Yeah,
he's
that's
like
right.
really cunning. He's like he's the hacker, you know, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like what his role is.
I remember the scene where
That's
they're like,
one thing as well. The game like characterizes everyone as, so the book characterizes everyone as if the game. So there's like a scene where Lord Scourge says like he remembers back in the academy like he chose to be a warrior, but he could have been a sorcerer, and these are like the classes you could pick at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And the same when he describes
So
Setchel, like
obvious.
oh yeah, he's really good at like slicing in the computers and everything. It's like so obvious, like saying like these are the skills you could use in the game.
I actually love that. I just remember the
Yeah.
scene in the book
Yeah, me
where
too.
Setchel tried to like get when they're like invading the droid factory and Scourge has to fight off like a bunch of like assault droids because Setchel was like trying to secretly see if he could get him killed. There was
Yeah,
really
he's
well
just
described
waiting.
action. Yeah.
Yeah, he waits like so long. He's like, he must be dead, and then he turns off the power, and then
That's it,
he's still
yeah.
like, Scorch rings in, being like, "Oh, you finally did it." Setchel's like, "What the fuck? How,
How
still
did you
going?"
do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
There was
that's
actually
one of
a
the
plot
things I
hole
like
at that
about
point.
the book.
When they were leaving, the electric fence is still on, and I was like, "How? He turned the power off on everything." So
Oh.
that's only it's like a minor plot hole. But they mention like because Scourge is injured, oh, he can't jump over the electric fence because he's like too injured to do so. And I'm like, why is the electric fence even on? So they have to run through the gate. But I thought that was like that's the only plot hole I mentioned. I like noticed.
I didn't
So
notice
minor. Actually, that's one thing that I've got annoyed with. It felt like Carpachin was writing so much of Scourge's like internal thoughts to be like, "Ha, you thought this was a plot hole, but no, Scourge has already thought about it." Because Scourge is like super paranoid. He's always thinking about where he might be betrayed. So he's overthinking like everything, and I feel like he's always like potting this in to be like, "Oh, you think Scourge might have not thought about this, but haha, he actually did." And it's like all the time.
At least,
I
at
guess it's
least
just a setup.
Carpathian was trying,
Yeah.
though. You know, at least Carpathian was actively like trying to be like, oh, the reader's gonna think this. You know, let me try to like be smart. Let me try to think about things. A lot
Yeah.
of modern authors don't even try.
No. So I give
Yeah.
him that, but there was a point where I was like, bro, stop. I've got the idea now, like this guy's super paranoid, but he also thinks ahead. Don't have to explain every time he thinks something might be up.
Yeah.
Read some Rogue Planet, you'll be missing that.
There's literally a point like he turns around and he's like, Nyrus could slash him in the back right now. And
I
like,
remember that.
yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I understood that when he turned around.
Over explaining maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just over explaining like all. I guess it's just to keep on leading in like, oh, the Sith are constantly betraying each other. But that's the whole Sith plot line of this book. So it's
He
all
had to
you know.
justify his Bane books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's
Yeah.
justification for the Bane books. He's like, see, look, they can't handle it. We can only have two.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too paranoid.
I never liked Nyrus's name because it was too close to Nihilus, who's a cooler Sith.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
Nihilus should be the Emperor because he swallows multiple planets. They're talking about how Tenebrae swallowed this one planet and it's like, oh, it's so terrible. How could he do this? Nihilus is just like, fucking give me more.
I think
Hundreds.
the idea is because Tenebrae can think and he's cunning and he's smart and he's wise and he's
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
I
And
was
Nihilus
gonna
is
say-
just a void of black
Yeah,
hole.
Nihilus is just
I almost
too
think-
hungry. Like Tenebrae.
Something
yeah,
I
is
like.
cunning.
Something I like about Nihilus is outside of that one ability, he's not like the most powerful Sith
Yeah,
Lord
he's
ever.
not a good
and then,
same-duelist or anything.
and that his biggest, most insane ability that people always go on about is actually like his biggest weakness. And I think Kreia even points that out, that he's so hungry that is an issue.
Can't do
That
anything else.
he gets so hungry that he can't think clearly. Which is why he's not. Which I remember when I played the game, I thought, "Oh my god, this guy is so powerful." And then when I fought him, I just beat him immediately.
And he's
It was
easy
so
intentionally, by the way.
Yeah.
Because he's not. I always thought he's not going to be that good with a lightsaber. He's not going to be that, difficult to fight because he has this one ability that makes him so strong, and why he's done so much. But really, that's also his biggest weakness. And
I
I
don't-
think that's probably
he's
one of the
a-
strengths of his character.
Isn't it because he's a walked wound in the Force, right? Like,
Yeah.
he needs to feed that wound. Yeah, I guess that's the difference. Like, Tenebrae did it because he just wanted power. Like, he did it to
Nihilus is a
absorb their
victim.
souls.
Nihilus is a
Yeah.
victim
Talking
the
of,
situation. Tenebrae is not. He's a
Talking
perpetrator.
of wounds in the Force, I was really disappointed with the Exile in this book. Very, very disappointed. Probably
Yeah.
one of the biggest critiques for me. I just couldn't stand how the Exile was written at all. At first, I was pleased to see them and have them be part of it, but just the way the story goes, I almost feel like KOTOR 2 didn't happen the way that I remembered it, because Drew seems to be writing a much like scaled down version of KOTOR 2 that didn't have as much of importance and as much of an impact, and it doesn't seem to follow any of the same beliefs or anything that KOTOR 2 talks about.
There's a whole chapter where Mitra is talking to Bastila, and it really feels like it's Drew's internal monologue of like how he views Mitra Surik, because Bastila constantly views her with jealousy and bitterness, thinking like she's jealous that this girl is a hero like Revan, and she's seen like as powerful as Revan, and she's jealous that T3 follows her as if she's Revan, and that all that HK was there, and that Canderous was there, and that like all these companions of Revan were now following Mitra. And it feels like that's not Bastila saying that, that's Drew saying that, being like he's almost jealous of the character. Like that's how I felt
really
anyway.
funny,
especially there's a bit where she explains that she felt so bitter towards Mitra because Mitra was now going to go save Revan, and Bastila feel like she should be the one to go do that. But then she immediately felt guilt and shame, and I feel like is that maybe what Drew feels like when he feels jealous of this character, but he feels like guilty because he knows he shouldn't. Like he shouldn't be jealous of like what another writer did with the characters he set up, but maybe he like accidentally does. That's how I felt. Yeah.
If
that's
the case,
Mitra is so downplayed in the whole book. Like so. Everything that the Exile did feels so insubstantial to, unsubstantial to what I played. And, like saying about, the Exiles are wounded in the Force, I don't even remember that being mentioned. And
no,
I loved all the stuff. Yeah, I loved all the stuff like in the second game. When you play the first game, you think, God, my Revan must be the most like magnetic personality around because everybody wants to travel with him. Mm-hmm. But you play the second game and you actually realize actually, we're actually feeding off of everyone around us and making them want to be with us unknowingly. Yeah. Stuff like that just it isn't there. It's like Drew didn't even know about that. It felt like to me like it felt like to me he'd read a loose like Wikipedia article, and they're the most unreliable things in the world. I feel like that's all that he knew about the game, and in a way, maybe he didn't mean to be as insulting as I felt he did, but it felt like the second game really didn't matter in Drew's eyes, and it was just like a sequel to his story. And the Exile happened. Just kill him. Yeah, whatever. Well, that's how I felt Drew felt about it.
She was so weak in all of her encounters as well. Even though I feel like she was as powerful as Revan. She should be matching him 1-to-1, but this really felt. I mean, he's the titular character of the book, and Revan is the only one that carries through into the MMO. So. Revan now has the plot armor, and unfortunately, she's kind of just like she's literally killed like in like one sentence out of nowhere. It feels like there's no build up, there's no emotions involved.
I was saying before this that when Mitra died, I actually had to go back because I didn't realize. I was literally thinking like, where is Mitra? And I had to go back, and I didn't know that Mitra had died. I remember them saying like about how she had died, and I remember thinking what? Like I honestly had no idea because it's
very
so
quick.
Yeah, it's so downplayed, and that's how I felt. My biggest issue is that Drew downplays KOTOR 2, and it's just
that's what I was going to say a little bit earlier. Is to be fair, I don't, and I think Drew Karpyshyn is a great writer. Like I was glazing him earlier. I said he wrote the best EU.
Yes,
I really do not think he was equipped to write anything related to KOTOR 2 because the thing I like about KOTOR 2 is that it is not KOTOR 1 in so many ways. Drew Karpyshyn is a very straightforward writer. He's very nuance is not. I think he's capable of it, but it's not like his strong point. And I don't think that he was capable of writing the Exile as a character. Now, with that said, it was funny to me hearing Jular's explanation of that kind of inner monologue conversation because I was like, I'll give a little bit of respect for that because I can't fathom Todd Howard doing that about New Vegas. Which was the same instance of a developer getting outdone by a smaller developer in half the time.
Yeah, at least when I read into like Bastila's own jealousy, at least she does feel that guilt and shame, and I like to think that's what Karpyshyn also noticed. I don't know why I'm jealous of this character, but I acknowledge that I shouldn't be.
As much as I can say all this bad stuff about Drew in this book, you'll probably see in other episodes of the podcast. I love Drew's other work, and I think Drew is an amazing writer.
Yeah.
As we were just saying, wrote in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars books ever. I just think as Evan said perfectly. I don't think he was equipped for this book, for this story.
No.
I don't think it was for him to do.
For all of the things the
So
Revan
much of
book
the lore
is
because of him.
Yeah, well, that's true actually. But for all of the stuff that the Revan novel is or isn't, at the very least, and it is kind of, I don't want to say disrespectful to KOTOR 2, but it does miss the mark. After seeing what Todd Howard has done with the Fallout Season 2 to New Vegas, it could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Well, that would be the case of like if Drew outsourced the book to someone who actually hated KOTOR 2 and then he signed it off. You know, that's what happened there.
It would have been like Mitra. Yeah. Mitra didn't show. Mitra showed up, but she was like stripped of all of her character, like twice as bad as what we got. Like no capability.
Mitra walks into Bastila's living room where like she's with her son in that bit where they meet, and then she collapses and dies, has a heart attack, and that's it.
Bastila makes fun of her.
Heart attack.
Yeah. And then Bastila's like, lol. And then that's it.
Revan brings up Kreia to make fun of her and say she was a stupid old woman. That would be
stupid old hag.
Yeah, she didn't know anything.
Kreia would have loved Nefima as well. That's like her planet. That's where that's where Kreia should have been exiled to.
She'd
that's
have been
like
vibing, man. She'd have been chilling in paradise on the
no
dead
force
rock.
and not absolutely nothing.
No people. Eventually she would have been like, I got to do this everywhere else.
Yeah, true. Well, that's what they were worried about with Terebray, isn't it?
Yeah, that is exactly. That's why Scourge freaked out and started trying to kill everybody. He's like, oh, what if he does this again?
Yep.
Yeah, I just checked my notes again because I was thinking of what else I could say, and I just remembered this might be explained, but I remember being unsatisfied with the explanation. When Revan, the Exile, Scourge, and all that decide to go off and fight Vitiate, I remember thinking like that was a big problem for me because I felt like they should have they decided to go off on their own under the idea, you know, like we had to deal with this now. I didn't buy the urgency in that, and I almost feel like to me it was a bit stupid when really they should know we don't know what this threat is. We don't know if we can take this ourselves. And as much as we see at the beginning that the Republic at this time and the Jedi aren't perfect, I feel like Revan, after having learned from the Mandalorian Wars, wouldn't just go off on his own fighting again. And I feel like he should have went back and said, I know about this, I know this thing. And surely at that point, they might trust him or they might trust the Exile or someone. I just feel like, as much as it's unlikely that it would help them much, I just didn't buy at all that they would just think, okay, let's not tell anybody, let's go off. Because it's so cheap, and it's just an excuse for me for nobody to know about it, so that when the MMO, you know, this thing, you know, where Revan went, I feel like logically somebody would have said, hang on a minute, hang on, let's not just charge into this, let's think about this, let's tell people, let's make sure this doesn't die with us.
You're totally right, because like Nihilus actually says that when Scourge wants to confront the Emperor after he goes to Nefima, Nihilus is like, the Emperor's patient, like he's going to take his time to do this, like we can take our time as well. Like it's literally like, so Scourge knows like, oh, there's no rush. Like they take 4 years to learn why Revan managed to beat the domination. So they know like, well, it took 4 years and the Emperor's still not done anything. We can probably wait a bit longer. So it is just a forced urgency to get things rolling.
I think maybe Revan would be hasty to go. The same that if Bastila was there, she would be. But again, with underselling the Exile, I feel like the Exile, after all they've learned of Kreia and everything, would say, hang on, we don't need to do this. It might be best if we hold back until we can definitely deal with this. Another problem I had was the whole with the relationship with Revan and the Exile. I liked it at the time, but the more I think about it, I don't like how much faith the Exile puts into Revan and how willing to follow Revan the Exile is, when kind of like a whole part of KOTOR 2 is thinking, oh no, going off and doing that with Revan wasn't the right idea, and following Revan wasn't the right idea.
Just following your general blindly and murdering a whole planet, maybe not the best idea. To then just find that general again and be like, oh, I'm ready to follow you.
I'm going to do whatever this guy says. Yeah. Even with Revan getting better, I feel like the Exile would be the person to say, you know, I respect you now, but I can't do that. Or I don't think that's right.
Did they? The Exile, they never solve their wound in the Force, do they? Like do they still have it?
I don't think that's ever.
I don't know if
explained. The ending wasn't finished. I don't think that's ever explained.
With that in case, I would have felt it should
been,
have been the other way around. I feel like everyone should want to, as soon as they meet Mitra, to want to follow her. Like Revan should almost be thinking like, there's something drawing me to this character, and like you said,
Yeah.
Capuchin probably didn't play KOTOR 2, or if he did, he didn't care for it. So none of that's ever explained. Like it should, the role should have been flipped. I feel like at this point, the Exile is a stronger or as strong a Jedi as Revan, and Revan shouldn't just be like taking the lead all the time.
And there's always the room to have played with that, and how, if the Exile is no longer a wound in the Force, how? Because the Force is, the ability to use the Force is stripped from the Exile, and that's where all that comes from. In the New Jedi Order books, the same thing is done, and the character Verger learns how to do that, and how to undo it, and even how to mask yourself in the Force. And I feel like there was stuff in the lore that Drew could have looked to and thought, I can use that to solve this. But again, it was just, I don't think, and I won't say, I don't think it was a vindictive thing. I don't think it was like an anti, I don't like this. But I just think he could have put, I think he could have just put a bit more effort into thinking, more about the story of that game and what to do with it, which I don't think any was put into at all.
I don't think there was much vindictiveness over KOTOR 2, because KOTOR 2 did not sell all that well, and it didn't. No. I mean, it's got a very beloved cult following, but the overwhelming majority of people either haven't played it or see it as like the incomplete sequel to the good game.
And I think it's unlikely that in 2011 he had seen, like, by now the cult would have probably gone after him enough times on Twitter and everything that Capuchin would, think that, oh, clearly people really love KOTOR 2 and they must think it's better than mine. I don't think that was the case when he was writing this in like 2010.
Yeah, probably. I think he probably felt like,
no reason to
by that
feel
time,
that way.
By that time he was probably even like vindicated, thinking like, oh, well, that game didn't do as well. People didn't like that game as much, and not as much modding either. Like I had, as much as I had a few bugs and issues with KOTOR 2, which it wasn't as smooth an experience for me as the original. I played with probably hundreds of mods. I followed the mod build on the KOTOR Reddit. Nothing that changed the game, but just to fix stuff, make things higher quality, stuff like that. So I had a great experience. Same with the first game. Yeah. So I had a great time with it. And people nowadays, especially, restoring the cut content, fixing all the issues, you're gonna have an amazing time. But when it came out, and you still could have had a good time, it was a lot more buggy. There was, a lot of things are missing, a lot of cut content. It wouldn't have been the same game back then that it is now, which again might be why they didn't pay as much attention to it. Like maybe he wasn't even told to think about KOTOR 2. Maybe he was pitched play with what you did in the original, and this stuff is there as well.
I would like to know what his thought process was.
It's not up his alley either to approach the Force such a grey way. Like he is, like you said, he's very simplistic in his approaches. It is very much good versus evil. I mean, as we notice in the Grey Jedi episode,
there's place for that.
No, it's not a criticism, but he's almost to blame for why this whole argument of Grey Jedi exists, because he implemented this Jedi code on the Sith code, and then people made up the Jade Jedi code that sat in the middle.
Yeah, there is a moment in the book that I noted where it explains that Revan uses the dark side and the light side in a fight at the same time together. Which again was like kind of against the whole thing. Yeah,
he would be a great
Jedi kind of like against the whole thing that Drew does as well, like in his other stuff. Like that's not usually what he goes for. So it's very much, I think, for me, I don't view that as, oh, Revan can do that. I view it as, this is a video game character doing a video game thing. Like that's how I view it. Like he's, again, like we were saying earlier, he writes it like a video game, and I can see why that could be an issue for some people. But for me, it is, it's like KOTOR. Like that's something I enjoy. Make it like one of the games. That's what I'm looking for. It's something I think I will only mention this briefly. It's somewhat good I would say about like the Halo books, for example. They feel like Halo games, and I feel like he applies that same thing here, in that it feels like an Old Republic game, which I do think it's a positive for me, but I can see why that would be a negative for some people.
Well, if it was too much like the game, Revan would have been overpowered, because he would have just done this, and a storm of lightning would have flown out and killed everybody.
I did that over and over. I did that repeatedly.
Yeah.
If it had been
Darth
like that,
Cedric actually uses that. I actually really like that. Darth Cedric uses Lightning Storm, and it nearly kills Lord Scourge. But because he is so old and his force power is so diminished, he can only use it once. And like they mentioned, like he's exhausted after using Force Storm once. And because it didn't fully kill Scourge, he goes down to like, I guess, 1 HP. Scourge takes him out easily after that.
Mitra should have just hit Nyrus with the Force Crush, where she picks him up and like snaps her back.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can only get that power on a
the
dark
Exile
side
was nerfed hardcore, was very nerfed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's only dark side only. Like you have
I
to
think
like
the Exile-
maximize dark
Yeah,
side, is it?
Crush is dark side. You can't be light side playthrough to use the Force Crush power in KOTOR 2.
So on what you
Oh.
just said, Julia, I think this book led to an issue of people thinking much more of Revan than they should, and thinking a lot less of the Exile than
Yeah.
than they should. I think, for example, talk about power. I think power scaling is generally, very pointless, but it kind of works in video games. But and it's usually not something I like to do. But I just personally, I almost think like surely the Exile would be more powerful. Like I always thought the Exile being a wound in the Force and all this stuff. I kind of felt like they would even have more power, like more raw power than
Yeah.
Revan. Revan is
I would
quite
love to
powerful,
think, like,
but
what would Tenebrae... Like, I wanted to know what Tenebrae's thoughts were when he comes across this wound in the Force, because he's all about being super powerful and consuming people. Like, would this be, like, a massive enigma in front of him? Like,
yeah,
what
that
does
is
he
a
think when he senses
big
that?
issue. Big issue for me with the like consumption stuff. That I remember when I was going through the book, that how is the Exile not mentioned? Like, surely that would be like a great foil that the Exile would be able to fight him off. That the Exile would be the only person that could do it. I feel like that's like a perfect thing. Yeah. But it's not
Missed
there.
opportunity,
And again,
honestly.
yeah.
He
Again,
literally
is that
creates wounds in the Force, and now he's presented with a living one. Like, what happens when that happens?
yeah.
And
Can he fight a wound in the Force? Like,
yeah, and they
That's what I'm
literally,
interested in.
they mirror each other because the Mitra did like Mandalore. Is it Melkor
Malachor.
5? Where Malachor
great
5,
band
where
name idea.
she creates she essentially creates this like huge she destroys this planet. It's exactly the same what Tenebrae does, but one does it not knowingly, or she does it kind of knowingly, but for what she thinks is good. Tenebrae does it for pure evil. They are foils for each other. It feels like they were set up to be like,
yeah, total missed opportunity. They could have been perfect foils for each other. And again, it's made all about Revan. Revan has the big fight with them. Mitra's the one that just dies like nothing. It was so
That is
unsatisfying.
insulting.
It was-
I hadn't really considered
Yeah.
that.
that was insulting to me. I remember that was the thing for me that made me decide, okay, fuck it, I don't like this. Like,
I came
Oh,
into
give up on
this
it.
being kind of pro Revan book, but I think I'm starting to kind of agree with Gabriel, to be honest with you.
it is just like it's very good book, and it's those last like 2 chapters just completely. ruin
I
it.
think the EU server on Discord, which I had, if you ever want to join a Star Wars Discord server, I recommend the r/Star Wars EU server, best one. They often say the same thing, which I agree with. If you've not played the games, you'll probably really enjoy it because it's a very good written book, very well written book. It's enjoyable, and if these are new characters to you from this book, you probably won't think the same things. And even if you only play the MMO, you'll probably really enjoy it. But if you first play the KOTOR games and then read Revan, you're probably not going to like it. And maybe you will, but most people who play those
I'd
games,
argue
especially
if you play just KOTOR 1, you might still like it. It depends on
Yeah.
how you feel about his
If you-
characterization.
if you're into KOTOR 2, if you liked KOTOR 2, if you played KOTOR 2, you're probably going to have a lot of issues with this book. And I did, which is why I put it off for a long time. But when I did it, I was really hopeful. But yeah, I still felt all the same things people said. And I think it is a divisive book. When I posted my review of it, the comments are so 50-50 and people get really heated about it. There's people saying that I didn't understand it and that I'm stupid and I just not understood anything at all. And there'll be people that say the opposite, like you're stupid if you like it. What are you thinking? I think there's a lot to enjoy, but it just does some really terrible things with Knights of the Old Republic too, and even retconning, even with the original, the big
They
retcon of
you're gonna mention like how why Revan comes back.
the whole going evil over brainwashing shit, which it's just that is even insulting to the original game for me. It's never what I imagined, and a big part. What really annoys me about that as well is I feel like if the expanded universe had went on, we would have never still got to see the story of how they turned. I feel like there could have been like, do you know, we got like my favorite series, New Jedi Order, 19 books. We started getting 9-book series like Fate of the Jedi and Legacy of the Force. I feel like we could have had like a chunky series of the Mandalorian Wars if we never got a game. Yeah, and we could have got like Revan at the beginning, and get an amazing arc of slowly becoming this Sith Lord by the end. And maybe, like, my idea would be like it beginning the Mandalorian Wars, and maybe it ends right before KOTOR. You get like that whole journey, but we would have probably never got that, because what used to be, in my opinion, in the original game, a slow descent into darkness, is changed into brainwashing and all this shit that I didn't like. Like, I think we spoke about before the stream, there was or maybe it was at the beginning, about ideas of Revan was trying to stop something else. There was this greater threat, but there was still a story of, you know, this starts a crusade against the Mandalorians. This starts trying to help and save people, and slowly turns into hatred and vengeance, and it becomes more and more bitter. And then it becomes, well, if I can do this, I might as well, you know, I can save everybody. I can take over the galaxy. I can make this a better place. That story, which has the potential for greatness, probably would have never happened because of this book, I think. Yeah. Because now he was
Revan to me was always like Anakin being like, you know, I'll bring peace and prosperity to my new empire. It was like he felt like this was the best for like the Republic. He felt like he wasn't conquering the Republic because the you know, Sith want to be evil. It's because he believes that what he's gonna instill is gonna be better for the Republic than what they currently have, because the Republic was what led to the Mandalorian Wars. And also, like, this is like you said, like, Revan was turning dark already. He had ordered like Malachor 5, like everything that led to that. He was like going down that direction. And I always thought that he and Malak went on this kind of like crusade to learn more about the Sith. And then in my head, he had discovered something, like you said, like something. I always thought it was like the Rakatan, right? Like there was a hidden Rakatan empire, and he realized, like, I need to be strong enough to fight this. So I need to go back, conquer the Republic to make them strong, to get ready. But as you were about to say, instead what it is he meets the Sith. The Sith Emperor is so powerful, he says, "Oh, you're my puppet now. Go soften them up so I can invade in a few years."
It's just, and why would he do that? I don't even know why he would do that. Like, that's just
it's
so,
the same
it's
plan.
silly.
He did it with, so he sent the Mandalorians in. That's a retcon as well. The Mandalorians were sent in by the Sith to soften up the Republic, and then he decided they're not soft enough. I'm gonna send in this new slave Sith I've made, and he's gonna do the same thing with like the Starforge power, and I'm gonna risk getting the Starforge destroyed, which might be my biggest ability to win this war. Oh no, it got destroyed. Okay, I'll just invade again in 10 years. The book kind of does explain that as being like he's mad. Like, all the Sith see him as being like mad, and that's why Nihilus and Scourge is actually trying to overthrow him, because he's clearly out of his mind. But he does the same plan over and over, and it keeps failing.
Yeah, it's just, it's I think one of the big issues of this retcon as well is, like we said, it removes complexity rather than adding any. It suddenly, Revan's complex story isn't there. One of the things I was going to say is, I always like the idea that when Revan starts out, what he's doing could be argued as right. Like, I always like the idea that you could argue he's doing something good. The Jedi aren't doing anything, and they're helping out. And I always like the idea that he would begin, like, even way better than Anakin, like a way more positive and good person, somebody who's just trying to help and defend people, and would become that Sith Lord later on. But this sort of, like, again, it's sort of brainwashing. Like, it makes you just think that, like I said, I don't think we would have ever got to see the story of him becoming that Sith Lord, because it's just this one moment in this book where he's just
He's
changed.
not even really a Sith Lord. He's just a puppet. You know, he's just under the control of the Emperor.
He manages to undermine. This is what I couldn't believe. I felt like it wasn't Drew, the Drew that I had read before that I was loving, because he undermines his own story, not just Knights of the Old Republic 2. He undermines the original Knights of the Old Republic, and
it's to try and make the Emperor look more powerful. I think he has to sort of like, oh, you thought Revan was the ultimate bad guy. Well, this bad guy who controls
the Dragon
that
Ball
bad
Z
guy.
effect.
Yeah,
my brother and I always called it. Anytime Dragon Ball Z is going to introduce a new villain, this is every time they somehow manage to factor in a way for the new villain to humiliate the old villain, thereby making the old villain look weak, but not necessarily making the new. In order to make new powerful guy look stronger, he has to completely humiliate old strong person. Yeah. I gotta say,
Yeah.
when we came into this, I was kind of pro Revan book. But it's because when I thought about it in my head, I remembered Revan talking to Canderous and fighting alongside the Mandalorians on a snowy planet. I remembered
Yeah,
Revan
that stuff
getting
is
on
all
top
really
of a
good.
basilisk war droid and like riding it with his lightsaber out. I had these visuals. Like, dude, that's dope.
I wanted to mention, have we seen basilisks like in game? I don't
No.
think like I don't even think in SWOTO we've seen
I
them. They
don't-
sound so cool. They're semi-sentient. They are they're the rideable beast from Avatar. You know, the James Cameron Avatar
Yeah.
things, because they are connected to the Mandalorians, and like the basilisk screams when he kills the Mandalorian rider because they're like intrinsically linked together. I thought that was really cool.
But
Like as a little like lore tidbit.
see, yeah, you're right. I don't think we actually have seen one, and that's kind of a shame. But like that's what I pictured in my head when I thought of Revan. I was like, oh, these scenes were so cool, and I thought of Scourge. And after hearing you guys talk, I think I might have to switch sides. So yeah, that kind of sucks. It is kind
Honestly,
of
it's
Dude,
still,
like we said-
I like it. I still like the bug. Like for me, it's like a 6 out of 10. It's just that 4 out of 10 that drags it down is that last bit. Like if I read it right up to like page 260, brilliant, and then just don't read further.
Yeah, for me, it was just I was holding out hope and thinking, you know, maybe I'll get something out of it. And there's cases where I have, you know, before getting into Legacy of the Force and books like that, I heard of all the issues, and I thought, you know what, I think that's bad, but maybe I'll still enjoy it, and I did, and I did enjoy it even though I had issues, and I thought that might be the same with Revan, but the issues were just too much for me, and that's why I gave it a 4 out of 10. And as time goes on, my rating just like I could
Get
imagine
lower.
lowering it.
The more you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, it just there is good stuff, but
there
it's
was
so
not a basilisk in KOTOR 2.
it's so offensive, not in like, you know, like a personal way, but offensive
Yeah,
to like
offensive,
the story that I
yeah.
love. Yeah, it was like undermining it, underselling it. It felt like, I know Drew didn't dislike it. He doesn't dislike his own work, but it feels at times like you could have told me some of that was written by somebody that didn't like the KOTOR games, and I would have thought, oh,
You would have believed it, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't believe it. Again, we talked about how he undermines KOTOR 2, and I understand how that would happen, but I can't understand why he's underselling and undermining his own work. I just
Especially because he wrote SWOTOR, so like, you know, this is sort of set up the MMO. But
Maybe
you can't
he's
even
not.
be
Maybe
like,
he's
oh,
trying to
yo, he
undermine his
had to...
previous work to set up for his new work.
I know, that's what it feels like.
Better.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, dude,
I'm
my
playing
new
through
OC,
SWOTOR now.
my new OC.
So my
Emperor.
opinion,
Yeah.
my opinion might change as I play more of the lore, as I get to the Revan DLC, or the expansion pack for that MMO. My opinion might definitely
me-
change, especially because I think
yeah.
Mitra is actually in the game as like a Force Ghost or something. So when I meet her, I think definitely that might change my opinion on the book.
Yeah, I think you have to think sometimes, like, is this later justified? Like, again, to touch briefly on something else, when I talked about the Legacy of the Force books, one of the things that never sat right with me was when they kill Mara, and I thought, will this be? Well, it was a few people that decided it. I thought, will this be
Death by
justified?
committee.
I didn't think it was done well, but I thought, will this be worth it later on? Like, will this make sense? And I read the series, and it wasn't. In fact, something is lost in that decision rather than gained. And there are other character deaths, like Chewbacca in New Jedi Order, where I think something is gained rather than lost.
Well, who else was Jason supposed to kill?
that was why they did it. A lot of people think Tenel Ka, because that's a real sacrifice. Because
That would have made sense. That would have made more sense.
He has an actual connection to her, which is funny because they go out of their way to buy that book to show that he doesn't really have any relationship with Mara anymore, and you just feel like, how is this a sacrifice? How is this him sacrificing anything?
Now that you mention it, it would have been way better if he'd killed Tenel Ka, because like he had like a romantic intent. It would have made him like the inverse Anakin, because Jason doesn't really get redemption like Anakin did. So it would have been better because Anakin fell to the dark side because he was trying to save Padme. It would have been cool if Jason fell to the dark side and killed his version of Padme to do it.
Yeah, it was
That'd
that
have been
whole
wild.
idea. As much as I'm with the people that don't think he should have turned, but the story that they tell, I think, is quite interesting. And one of the things is, it's again that for the greater good. But this character in Legacy of the Force believes is that he has to like sacrifice things, destroy things to create something, and then it's to stop something from happening. Which again, we talk about this. It's much more believable than anything that goes on in this Revan book. I don't buy it. It feels so forced. It just feels like it was just, oh, we have these characters. They've got to be here for this game. Just do it, rather than a natural progression. And I think we talked in our last episode about various cases. I brought Wedge and Mara and Luke and all these characters that had books and comics like do something bad with them, and then had a writer figure out a way to make it into something compelling. Yeah. This didn't happen here. I feel like Drew could have been shown, I've got to get these characters from A to B, and instead of finding some better way to get them there, instead of finding some more logical way to get them there, it feels cheap. It doesn't feel earned. It feels forced. And maybe
I think actually what we like is when he's go A to B from KOTOR 1 to KOTOR 2, I just realized I think we all enjoyed that bit, right? Like go into the snow planet with Canderous and get in the Mask of Mandalore and all that.
That part's fire.
Like, lying KOTOR 1 to KOTOR 2, that was great. It's when he has to line up KOTOR 2, which he didn't write, to SWOTOR, that's when it all falls apart. So I think that's the bit where, probably because they weren't his characters, he didn't know what to do with them. But when they are his characters in the first bit, like I thought that was really well done. Like I liked that Canderous, had a wife and then he had to kill her. Bit
that
cringy that like when he shot her through the heart, and I'm like, really, like it's a bit on the nose, but like I still like it. Exactly. It's okay to be a bit campy at times. But like that all that bit I really liked, and it sets up perfectly for KOTOR 2. The same with like the Ebon Hawk is left on Nefima, and like T3 has to repair it himself. He takes like a year to repair it, and then he flies it through space himself, and he picks up HK-47 at one point. Like it's setting it all up to like you could jump into KOTOR 2 and it all makes sense. Like why that's happened, and you have yet to read the bit where it ruins Revan and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I almost would prefer if it was just a book between those two games. What happened to Revan during that period? That's more interesting. Yeah, or as we talked about, doing something in the Mandalorian Wars. It's like, I can't believe one of the few things I would accept like canon giving a go at from the EU is that unexplored period. Like, say we know Revan's canon, KOTOR maybe, we don't know. Well, if they don't want to do a story that's already been done, there you go. There's an interesting story that people will be here for. People want to see Revan. That's something you could do. What was the Mandalorian Wars? And that is something, I talked about before. This is me going back on something about not liking EU stuff done in canon. That is something where I will be happier done in canon, because you could ignore the
just set in an RPG,
and you could
like during that time would be brilliant. Just in that time of conflict, because now you immediately have the biggest choice. Do you pick Mandalorians? Do you pick Jedi? And like maybe there's a non-canon ending you can choose. You could somehow make the Mandalorians win. Because it's an RPG, you could make non-canon endings like that.
It's time for a KOTOR multimedia project.
Yes.
And a Master Vandar novel.
Yeah, we want 3 Mandalorian Wars novels. We want 2 games.
A Vrook-based novel, a Vandar-based novel.
Comic book series. Let's get it going.
But all the big games all get tie-in books now. What is it that Outlaws? That's got a tie-in book.
Does it really?
Fallen Order. Yeah, it does.
I can believe Fallen Order.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
think
Fallen Order has something going for it.
But that means surely, if the Fate of the Old Republic game actually comes out, we're going to get a canon Old Republic book. Surely, I think that's crazy to imagine. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that'll happen.
I hope it's not a. Well, is the Outlaws a tie-in or a novelization? Because I think the Fallen Order one's a novelization. Okay, because I actually
the Fallen Order one's like the Fallen Order is like in between. It's like in between the first and the second game. I've not read it.
Game,
I've not read it because I know it's got. What did you think? Because I know people don't really like it very much generally.
It's very mediocre. I mean, if you liked the characters of like Fallen Order, I think you're not gonna like it because it has to set up what happened to Jedi Survivor.
Which
in that like a lot of the characters are like pushed aside basically for like make a new crew. So it's like setting up like, oh, why did that happen? And like because those choices have to be made of making the A to B, they didn't feel like the characters to me. Like as I played with the game, like they didn't feel like the choices that they would have made based on how I experienced them in the game.
what's the night, like the girl who was like a night sister? What's she called
The
again?
Dathomirian girl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't remember her name, but yeah, like
Vera?
the
But
kind
I
of
know
love
that
interest. Yeah.
It's like
I was
Mara.
gonna say I know. Yeah, I know that her portrayal in the book is really
Yeah, that was the
disliked.
one I had
People
the
really
most.
don't like
I
it.
had the most problem with.
Damn, how do you
I think
mess
she was
that
actually
up?
portrayed. She was portrayed
Huh?
way better in the second game. Honestly, it feels like they completely
Yeah.
fumbled her in the book, and then somehow realized, oh, let's like actually make her better in the second.
Yeah, I can buy that they drift apart, but as
Mm.
what you're saying of like the way they're trying to force it to happen, I always like
Yeah.
the idea that they, when playing the second game, that they naturally just drifted apart with stuff that was happening, and the way
Well,
that the game explains it.
it feels like that's how the game explains it, and that makes more sense than like in the book where they have to give reasons for why that happens. It's just like it just feels a bit forced. I
I've
would just
literally-
preferred that
obviously-
like
I've
well, like
only
how the
played
game
Fallen
sets it
Order
up, they
and
just
that's
drift
it.
apart because they had different, they had different reasons for the
Yeah.
fight.
Obviously, they're not doing as good a job with tying to games as they used to. I do think they used to do quite a good job of it. Like when the Dark Forces and Jedi games stopped being made and they could finally use Kyle Katarn in books properly, it's pretty good. He's not in it loads, and they have Jaden Carr in it at some point, and they're all written pretty good. I know that any time they've tried to tie into a game in recent years, they've not been well received. But yeah, we don't. Oh, something we haven't talked about yet. I just thought Revan's lightsaber in this book.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we need to talk about
So
that.
it's
Still.
green on the covers, and it's so he has a green lightsaber in the first section of the book when he's fighting with the Mandalorians. So it seemed it was originally, I think KOTOR 2 might canonize it. I know one of the comic books does, as blue when he was a Jedi Knight. So before the Mandalorian Wars or during the Mandalorian Wars, he has a blue lightsaber. For some reason, he's now come back with a green one. I don't particularly know why, but in
Yeah.
SWOTOR he has a purple one, and that's apparently deliberately made because he's good and bad. That's the middle color between blue and red. So
And,
the green
in-
choice
when
is a bit weird.
When he was a Sith Lord, he had single red, and obviously there's loads of Like I think I said before the podcast, I don't know if this was official or part of the restored content mod or something like that, but I know that when we see a ghost of him in a cave on KOTOR 2, he has red and purple, and that's a very popular piece of art of him.
That's
with red
like
and
the
purple.
one is red.
That's
and
the
purple.
Revan.
With
yeah.
red, yeah.
So
I think
just
that
find
might
it
have been
such an
from a
odd
mod.
choice.
I think originally it was just a single blue one.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I still, with all of this going on, I find there's so many choices that I just find it really odd that they went with something totally different and just gave him green, which I don't think matches his character. I don't think it suits him.
No.
I don't think it suits
It
him
is a strange
in a
choice.
visual way. Yeah, I don't think it suits him with meaning. Even obviously, we can apply meaning to colors of lightsabers, but even like the color green, I don't think it suits him. And then visually, I don't think it looks good on him. I don't think it looks cool. I
No.
just think it clashes with his.
It clashes
colours,
with his
the-
outfit, like yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Why?
weird.
Why did
I
they
don't know
do
why.
green? Now that you mention, it? I don't understand.
This is what I would love. In a not in the way we're talking about it, in a more polite way, to talk to Drew about
Yeah, just ask
the
him why
writing,
green.
the
It might
writing
not
of this
have been a
book
him
because
decision.
I'm interested
yeah.
to know what he was asked to do and what was
Maybe
what was
that's just
thrown
how he
his
always
way.
played Revan when he was playing KOTOR 1. Maybe he just
Maybe.
always
Maybe
played
he
with a green
likes green.
lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like
so
I'm,
That's what I
I
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I don't
I
know.
Well, that's the thing
I don't know why.
with Revan's characterization we were saying before the stream. He's written in the book. Like I felt like when Revan's talking and like the choices he makes, it's like I'm always thinking like not my Revan, because this Revan is very
Not my-
sarcastic,
hashtag
but he's
not my
good.
Revan.
He's not my Revan, yeah. But he's
Not
like
mine
this
either.
is good side Revan. This is Revan who's picked the good side, but he picks all the sarcastic choices, which are normally the dark side choices. And Evan, you made a good point that it's probably to show that like he's more of a neutral Revan. Like he's Revan that is like kind of dark, but he's also still light because he picked the good side ending
Yeah,
and romance Bastilo and all that kind of stuff and saved it from the dark side.
I almost wish. I don't know, one of the things for me is that he felt so undefined. Like I feel like he's canonized into this character, but he doesn't actually have that much to him. Like there's not much personality.
He's characterized to how
Um,
he's written in SWOTO, I imagine. I imagine he's going to be written like exactly
Yeah.
the same.
I felt like he wasn't much of a character in this book. Like he still kind of felt like an RPG archetype rather than a character, which I thought if you're going to canonize the events of KOTOR and you're going to give him a look and a character, he still didn't get enough of a character. Like he was
Yeah.
still pretty
He does.
bland.
There was a point I made where like one of his questions is literally like, "Tell me more." It's like literally just an RPG line, to open up the next
Yeah.
part of the dialogue. It does feel like it's
Yeah.
like very much written like that.
Yeah, and
a bit
as
actually
much as we
regarding
were-
that I liked was at one point Lord Scourge sees Nyrus and she's always studying at her computer, and he goes back like 2 weeks later and she's still there, and it mentions how it feels like she's not moved at all in between like the last time he saw her, which is obviously like a nod to like that's literally like in the
Yeah.
games when you go see they have not moved. So there's like I really like that.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. But yeah, just on Revan's writing, I don't know. He's just, I think I said at the beginning, he went from a favourite character of mine to, the character in this book and who I now know Revan as in the lore, I don't even love him. I just think he's like, he's a pretty good character. I don't love him. The same way that like someone like Kreia, because of the way that they're written in the game, lives in your mind. You always think about them when you think of Star Wars. I used to feel that way about Revan, and now he's just a character. He's okay.
It's funny you say that. When I was younger, I used to lament that we didn't get Kreia in any other media except KOTOR 2, and now that I'm older, I'm grateful that we don't get Kreia in any other media other than KOTOR
Yeah.
2.
Would you even trust Avalon to like do a Kreia
Not
book?
now. Not now. I don't think
No,
he
because
could.
because no, especially because he prefers KOTOR 1. Do you think he'll somehow dumb down his own writing?
Somewhere.
I think that some strange thing happened from like 1992 to 2011 that gave certain people the ability to write, and then those exact people lost it afterwards. Like I don't think Avalon is currently capable of writing the way that he did back then.
There's definitely like it's not even a theory, I guess, is people are noticing like a lot of game designers who are like, really good back in the 90s and early 2000s, it doesn't carry through, right? Like things like Tim Kaine, like Outer Worlds is like not as good as Fallout and stuff like that. Like, yeah, for some reason, maybe your creativity does just get worse with age.
It's possible, yeah. I'm not sure what it
maybe
is.
We're just seeing that for the first time because we can link it to like these bigger multimedia projects.
Yeah. I think a lot of it also probably has to do with production costs and oversight and brand management, IP management.
Yeah.
But not to
I know
sound
about,
egotistical, but the only person I would probably trust to write anything Cray related is myself. It's only because I know that I wouldn't screw it up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say about them not writing as well. I know I can't remember his name, the guy that wrote some of the original Halo games. They got him back for Halo Infinite,
Joseph
and
Staten.
you could critique that, but when he came into Halo Infinite, it was to patch up, like it was to make the game get delivered. It wasn't to actually to write the rest. It wasn't to write the game. It had already been like written. He had
It's
to like
rumored
try
that he
fix
did
it up.
overhaul a bunch of stuff out of like desperation because the rumor is that he came on and he was only supposed to be there for 3. Well, this is confirmed. He said it. He came on. He was only supposed to be there for like 1 to 3 months, and he was there for like 2 years because he came on board and he was like, "What have you done?" And there was like a ton of overhauls that they like rushed in like 6 to 12 months.
Have you seen the recent leaks of the plans they had? Like the meet, we've seen images of their like plans for all the DLC and all the story content that they were going to be doing, and that just disappeared. That just never came out.
I don't think
they
the
were
game
doing
performed well enough.
No, they were doing a DLC with the guy that beats Master Chief at the beginning. That you think is dead, and he was gonna. And it's revealed at the end of the game that he's still alive. Yeah, it's revealed at the end of the game that he's still alive. There was going to be a DLC not long later doing a story with him, and that just never happened. So obviously a mess. But that's again what you're talking about. It's not just. We can say that people have gotten worse at writing, there's a lot of worse writers. There's also a lot more production issues nowadays. I feel like stuff is being, because in gaming, as it has gotten bigger and bigger. More and more companies and people have latched onto it that don't understand the way that games are made and just want stuff to be pushed out. Get this out. We need this out now. And it's the reason why we have so many games. Yeah, it's the reason why we have so many games that come out unfinished, because it's being pushed out by people that don't understand how games are made and don't understand how to make a good game.
And then when
just think
it's
it's
bad
quick.
reviews for performance, they can everybody.
And it's corporatism as well. Like I'm actually just reading what went wrong with Halo Infinite here, and it's the same thing with Starfield. They said the studio was described to be split into fiefdoms that struggled to complete the game and conflicted with each other on decisions, resulting in 4 to 5 games being developed simultaneously. Which then, when they brought people in to fix that, 2/3 of whatever those like fiefdoms were making was completely cut,
Yeah.
and they
As
started
much
again.
as the company Free Industries that are now your Halo Studios, as much as it's like all the same people, one of the reasons they should at least be a little bit better in the future is that they don't have the same management. And what it was is that the management over the last like few years has just been the most like awful people that don't understand games at all. Because they one of the cases was with the Master Chief Collection, where I can't remember who it was. Was it like Marty O'Donnell and a few other people? They got them involved for Halo 2 Anniversary, and they thought it was just going to be Halo 2 Anniversary, and then they were told that, oh no, they're doing Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this big collection, and someone said to them like, you can't do this in the time that we have, that's not possible. And they just ignored them and just thought, oh no, we can do it. And they couldn't do it. No, I mean, Halo the Master Chief Collection now is like an amazing collection that's like, you know, it's
5
so well
or 6
done.
years after release.
Yeah, but this is how long it has took to get it in that state. You know, it's so good. It's great value for your money. The games are in a great condition. They're so much fun to play. It's a great option. It's like the best option we have today. But this is after years and years of patching and fixing. And this is what
middle
they should
managers are like just a bane of like every corporate company seemingly. But they're necessary because obviously the CEO can't delegate to like 400 people, so you need someone in between. But the middle managers always seem to be terrible.
And I do think sometimes this is why
there's got to be some kind of like work theory as to what happens.
I was gonna
for
say,
managers to exist.
I was gonna say is that there's got to be some middle ground that companies aren't finding, because then we get like cases like Valve, which I love, but they will spend long working on games.
They take like 20 years to make something.
Yeah. But then, like with Left 4 Dead 3, I'm not sure if you know about the story of that, but they pretty much finished the game and got to the bug fixing stage and just lost interest and then never touched it. And that's why we never got it. Yeah, and that is insane. There should have been somebody there saying...
They have so many projects where you learn like, like 4 years in development, and then like the lead was just like, I'm not feeling it. And then it just all, like everyone just dispersed, and I was like left.
If you don't need to make any money, why bother?
Yeah.
I mean,
the incentive to finish is money. And
it's
Valve,
the unfortunate reality of us being like, let the creators be creative, but that's what happens if you don't have someone there to push them.
Right? I like the work ethic in mind that of, you know, they only work on stuff they're passionate about, but there needs to be a point when somebody says, no, finish that game. Like there needs to be a point when someone says, no, you have to fix that.
And also,
we're so far in, finish that.
To that point, you have to have a creative director or some kind of visionary of someone who says, I like your idea, but it doesn't work. It needs to go. Your idea, the thing that you're passionate about, doesn't work, and we're not doing it. You have to have someone there. Yeah. That's why you have to have a creative.
Well, that's what game directors
lead.
are meant to be for, right? Yeah, like the game director, that's meant to be their role. But it depends on how good the game director is. And game directors can also age out, you know? Like I feel like Todd was the best game director for Morrowind because Morrowind came out as it did, but then it got worse after that. So
even Kojima-san, I mean, I like Death Stranding, but it's clearly what happens when you give a game director complete creative control.
Mm-hmm.
So some people love it, but do you have 40 hours to play 20 hours of walking?
That's what I was going to say.
And I beat it twice, by the way. I get to complain.
Well, what I'll say about Death Stranding is my mum plays games, but she only plays like a certain section of games. She tried Death Stranding, and what she said to me was it was just walking, and she couldn't play it because actually it was literally just walking, and that she hated it. Which is I've never tried it.
It's just walking.
It's like, have you guys ever heard of Desert Bus?
Yeah, I've heard of Desert Bus.
Yeah, so it's like a mock game that was made by Penn and Teller, who are magicians, and it was meant to be a Sega CD game, but they cancelled it. Yeah, it was a joke game that you'd have to drive for like 60 hours across the desert, and you couldn't stop controlling the game because the bus would always veer to the left, so you always have to like keep tapping right. Literally, like that's what Death Stranding sometimes feels like. It's just a test of human resilience. That's part of like the art, right? That's like I guess that's what Kojima was partly going for.
It's to be a subversive experience. I saw this guy talking about how certain art doesn't need to be. We don't have to get. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. But it can always tie back to like Star Wars, especially because there's so much like different media that approaches it. I mean, that's the favorite thing we all like about KOTOR 2, right? That actually, it's a dissection of the genre of RPGs. and especially the BioWare RPG. It looked at a BioWare RPG of the good versus evil and being like, no, this is something more
It's more
philosophical
complex
than
than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that made the thing that made the Obsidian particularly RPGs so special is that I actually don't think they were trying to be subversive. So if you look at something like Death Stranding, that
I
feels
think
like
Avalon was, but the rest of the game wasn't. That's the important thing. Like, it
That
wasn't
might be
the
the
entire
case.
game wasn't the B. It's just
Yeah.
the writing, and you can approach that game with like a very boneheaded approach, and you can still like it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can't make Death Stranding not an art piece of walking. Like, you can't remove that from the game unless you maybe mod it or like you get the car at a certain point and stuff like that. But I feel like you can't remove that part. It is a walking simulator by definition.
it's like an energetic, like, positivity negativity thing. Like, I think there is a difference between going into something with a cynicism of, I don't like the norm, I'm going to try to do something strange and weird, as opposed to I like the strange and weird, and that's just how it looks when I write. So if you look at David Lynch's work, I used to be a huge David Lynch fan. I think I've kind of I've outgrown his media, and now it's just kind of, that's a whole different thing. But if you look at David Lynch's work, one thing I'll say is it never feels like he's trying to be weird and strange and atmospheric. That just feels like the way that the things that he thinks are cool and interesting and fun, and that's what he wants to do. But there's a lot of stuff that's Lynchian that feels like somebody sitting there trying to be like, how can I be weird and strange? It comes across really different.
Even if you just watch a video of David Lynch talking about something, it just has that like vibe to it. Like, there's just always, he's just in a fun way, like such a strange individual. He was such just so like unique and strange.
I read
and
his
I feel
book
like
about
I do
how
think
he
the
got
same.
his ideas, and he's the way he gets his ideas is so, unless he was lying and making a fool out of all of us, the way that he got his ideas in his book that I would recommend reading is he would like meditate for 30 minutes and like go through an atmosphere of surrealistic like space and look for like imagery in his head, and he's like, and you'll know when you find the right one. Okay, David.
I mean, it's just almost a good point that a lot of people say, well, like the best ideas are like in the shower, when you're on a walk, or like when you're deliberately emptying your brain. That's when your best ideas
been
are.
The case for me too. I get a lot of good ideas when I'm walking my dog. I take him on nice little long walks. I'm getting good ideas.
So it's solid advice, honestly. I mean, doing it through meditation is just more direct way of doing it. It kind of defeats the point of the meditation, to be honest, because I think you're meant to actually empty your mind during meditation.
Well,
if you're meditating to deliberately trying to find thoughts, it kind of, I think, goes against.
I wasn't doing a very good job of explaining it because it's not just like meditation. It's very strange because he was explicitly talking as if his mind was entering a different dimension.
Right.
Not metaphorically, like literally. He believed he was entering. Like talking to a hippie,
So it's like a skill he's learned. Yeah.
But again, he didn't see it as a skill.
Maybe that's how he
literally
learned it.
thought he was entering into an alternative dimension of existence. Like, it's not metaphorical. He genuinely believed he was interacting
Maybe he
with
just
other...
did enough acid, like in the past, or mushrooms or something, where he's just like unlocked.
He would have been growing up in that era.
Exactly.
I just looked up.
Too bad Joe Rogan
we were talking about
but they talk.
We were talking about ideas. I just remembered. Was it? I'm pretty certain. I just looked up. I'm pretty certain it was David Lynch who said. I've seen loads of clips of when he said it, and he would say it over and over. He said, "When you forget an idea, you kill yourself." And he said, "When you forget an idea, you're dead."
Yeah,
and when we just talk about, that's such a strange way of thinking. But like you said, we were talking about ideas. Some of the best ideas that you have do just come to you randomly. Like when you want an idea, you don't just think up something. A lot of the time, some of the best stuff that you think of just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, you'll be thinking about something else, and then suddenly you'll just pop in. You know,
Look, in my early 20s, I was the most theatrical, melodramatic person you could imagine. I was homeschooled, and then
you think you would have been Sith?
Oh yeah, easily. I didn't have nearly the self-control or discipline to be Jedi. I think I've grown into that kind of mindset. But the point is that I was way over dramatic. I over dramatized everything. And one of the greatest skills that I learned is that it's not that fucking deep. And I wish whenever I hear people like David Lynch talking, who I was obsessed with in my early 20s, now I'm an adult, I'm like, dude, it's a fucking movie, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I just wish I could talk to some of these people and be like, relax, brother.
Lynch is so chill, though. I feel like Potty's always kind of like tongue in cheek. Like even if that was his technique, he would also probably would tell you as well. Like, yeah, it's not that serious.
I would hope
This is
so,
what I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope. It's
I don't,
true.
everything I was seeing, he always seemed like pretty chill. Although he was big on like, yeah, if you get an idea, you have to write it down. Like that was a big thing. Like never forget an idea.
I think I heard this quote once that we cringe at things only when we see the potential for ourselves to be in that thing. And that's why, like, looking at a lot of, like, very over dramatic, like, artists and auteurs, the reason that, like, I don't like it is because I know that, like, I have the capacity to act like that, and I don't like the way it looks, you know what I mean? Because I see, like, auteurs who, like, are obsessive about how seriously we need to take the subversiveness of art to challenge. And the current me is like, shut up. But it's only because I know that I could have ended up like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's when I find certain lines in books cringy. It's because like that's something I would have wrote.
Yeah, right.
Probably,
Exactly.
Yeah. Like when Kandor shoots his wife in the heart, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Because it's like perfect. Like where else would he shoot her?
That's right. Yeah.
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 I guess we're at hot take time.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say. Speaking of ideas that you've had and then forgot, do you want to start with your hot take?
I'm about to fall. I'm dead. I died. You're speaking to an apparition because I forgot the hot take from yesterday. But I do have a backup. This is going to be a deep cut, and the few viewers we have right now may not even understand it. Welcome to the chat, Hammond. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and this is something I know Gabriel won't agree with. But I think that Jason's fall to the dark side and becoming Darth Caedus makes complete sense. And it was a good arc for the character because having known a lot of people and being able to see some of myself in the Jason character, being as good as he was for that long will jade you to death. So seeing the dark side, the Caedus arc, I'm like, yeah, that is exactly what would happen to a kid who was as good as Jason for as long as Jason was good. I like the Darth Caedus fall.
I'd need a whole episode. We could wait one day and do a whole episode. That's all I'll say.
That's my hot take. Is I think Darth Caedus made sense, and I think that Jason's fall was inevitable.
Like I said, I could say something, but it'll start.
We'll do a Caedus episode. We'll do a Darth Caedus episode. All right, Gabriel. No, Jula. What's your hot take, Jula?
Right. Okay. So I'll preface to say that I do believe this, but when I wrote down like my reasons for it, I realized that objectively I think it's a bad take, but that's why it's a hot take. Is that I don't think the ability to make everyone a Jedi or Sith in KOTOR 2 was good. I think that was a bit silly. Like I understand why, like because the exiles are wounded in the Force and like they attracted Force users, and hence why they're all capable of becoming Force users. But I just preferred if at least one of them stayed like non-sensitive, because if I feel like that. By them all being Force sensitive, it works against the Star Wars universe having Force users be more of a rarity.
Yeah.
I will
say
I'm almost surprised that T3 couldn't become a Jedi. Like I feel like that's almost where they were going to.
Who's the male guy that you travel with in KOTOR 2? What's his name again? Patron, yeah. So do you know you can make him become a Jedi?
you can make him. That's what I mean.
Like, that's what I was about to say.
Become a Jedi. Yeah.
I was going to say.
Do you know what the problem for that with me was? Right, I didn't care for him very much, so I didn't really speak to him a lot. I never made him a Jedi. I didn't know you could make him a Jedi, and then I found out afterwards, and I was like, my mind was blown because I didn't even think he was that interesting. So I just spoke to everybody else instead.
I was going to say it's actually so, and even if you want to, it's really hard. It's so difficult to make some of these characters Jedi.
I have that as a point as well. Like to be fair, they did make it really difficult. Like,
most people I know didn't know you could.
Yeah, the Handmaiden is literally set out as being like she's not Force sensitive. That's why she's like not a good apprentice for like that convoy, like the whatever it was, the convene of like the Handmaidens, you know, in I don't even know, I can't remember what it was called. With Atris was the Jedi.
Atris.
Her little harem basically. But like the Handmaiden was kicked out. Yeah. The Handmaiden was kicked out because she was not Force sensitive. It's like it's drilled into you like she's not Force sensitive, and actually she can be. Turns out
it's interesting. You know? In X-Wing, there's a character in Wraith Squadron who's Force sensitive but rejected by Luke for not having the potential to become a Jedi, and then you meet her again later on, and after like the New Jedi Order, and she went back and Luke trained her and she became a Jedi, like she became a knight. So there's another case of that way. Like you think maybe they can't do it, but they actually are. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do agree. It's a bit much, especially considering how easily you can miss it, like I did. Like I could not believe you could make Atin the Jedi because I thought he was so boring. He was like, I loved the KOTOR 2 characters, right?
That's a hot take
didn't
right
care
there.
very much about
Atin
him.
is super cool. What
You
are
know,
you
probably,
talking about?
You know probably why, because I didn't speak to him very much. Like I didn't talk to him very much.
Yeah,
so
you never
I
had the
got
time to learn that he
Do
was
you
cool.
know
Yeah,
his
'cause
backstory? Do you know
to
what
be
he
fair,
was?
I don't remember because it was a long time ago. That I
Bro,
played
Atin's
KOTOR 2.
super
Trevor,
cool.
He's super whiny though when you first meet him, so I
At
can
first,
see why you
yeah,
stopped
yeah.
talking to him. Yeah.
He is
That's
way
what
more
I
interesting
thought.
than you know.
Whininess.
He is way
Yeah.
cooler
Yeah.
than you realize, dude.
Mhm.
Go play again.
I was like, I'm going to at some point.
Atin's super cool.
I
You
know
don't
one
know
of the
his
things I wanna
backstory,
do.
dude. He's not just a smuggler. He's super fucking cool.
I've forgotten a lot of things from KOTOR, which is why
And
I
his
want
force
to play it again.
sensitivity makes sense.
Yeah, he's not like really what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking more like the handmaiden that was drilled
Yeah.
in. Like, she's
Theodur.
not force sensitive. Oh, it turns out she is.
Yeah, I really
Theodor's
liked
hard.
the Handmaiden, but I loved the Handmaiden, but I was nice to Visas, and she never
Visas.
spoke to me ever again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to pick
the
one or the
Handmaiden. I know.
Yeah.
When I next play, I'm going with the Handmaiden because I thought she was way more interesting.
I always defaulted to. It's hard not to default to Vices because you just feel so bad for her.
Yeah, that was it. I
You
felt
just
so
want to
sorry for her.
empathize
Like,
with the poor thing, and Handmaiden's
Yeah.
like so mean about it too. He's like, "Look, I'm
Yeah.
just, do you know what she's been through? Chill out.
I
Yeah.
know, it was ridiculous. I didn't like being made to choose, to only be nice to one or the other.
That's real
I
life.
do have a slightly hot take then, I guess, but I couldn't think of a very good one. But one I would say probably is that
Saying
the Old
Atin is a
Republic,
boring
like,
character is a hot take in itself, by the way. But anyways, go on.
I completely confessed a bit to not paying enough attention to him when I felt that when I
Time
played
for a
it.
second playthrough.
But what I'd probably say then is I think like the Old Republic as an era is really terribly structured and probably should have been like loads of different eras. Like I feel like the Old Republic spanning like thousands of years, like over like tens of thousands of years and all these different things. They should have all been different eras. And I think it's like ridiculous to even think of it as one era because like next to the Old Republic, that's totally separate from the MMO. Tales of the Jedi is totally separate from them. And there's all these other parts that go on in the Old Republic, like the Mandalorian Wars and the new Sith Wars and all these things that
the
go on.
Jedi Civil
How
War
on
that happened in
earth?
between those.
Yeah, how the fuck is this one era? Like, I just think that is ridiculous. I feel like it's so terribly structured, which is why
It's
I can
because
never like
characters
say.
live too long. Like, because the Emperor's like 1,000 years long, Scourge is 1,000 years long.
What
The
is
Sean
Star
family is still
Wars?
around. Is still a ride. By the way, the Sean
It's why-
family, worst Jedi's ever. None of them follow the code because they all have kids. What's going on there? There's like 8 generations of them. Everyone has a bloody kid.
Well, Yeti Mooney had
I can
kids.
Yeah, but there's not. The Sean's a human. It's not. They're not lacking a lot of those, are they?
Yeah, they got to fix that.
What,
man.
what I can
Yeah.
probably never I can never say like I'm like a big Old Republic fan because I like the Bane trilogy. I love Knights of the Old Republic. There's loads of stuff I really love, but the Old Republic being as massive as it is, there's a lot of stuff I don't really like as well. There's loads of stuff there that I'm not a big fan of, and it's why I never really. I think so many people love the idea of the Old Republic more than the Old Republic.
They do
the
because
idea,
it's
of
the
it
idea
being
that you can have a bunch
detached.
of Jedi and Sith. That's the appeal
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
Old Republic is that you have a bunch of
Simultaneously, yeah.
Force wielders and lightsabers and cool shit can happen. That's the big problem with all of the other Star Wars stuff is you can't have cool philosophical ideological battles between Jedi and Sith because there's no Sith. There's barely
There's
any
not enough room
Jedi.
for it. And then they won't dare do something again like the Yuzhen Vong, the whole proposing the idea of what if we're wrong about the Force, and they won't ever do anything like that ever.
again.
They won't ever do anything like NJO or KOTOR 2 ever again, probably.
If they do, it'll
yeah.
slip through the cracks without them realizing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
like
that's
some
the only hot
random
take I can
comic
think of this
series
time.
somewhere that someone didn't check properly when they signed it off.
Yeah.
That's the only way
And
that
they'll
stuff's
ignore
coming
it.
back. Yeah.
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 Gosh, yeah. I'm just thinking about the fact that the Old Republic had all those Jedi and the Sith, and it's still it's not canon, I know, anymore, but there's so much potential for like more stories between all of those Jedi and all of those Sith.
But they're
that you
still
could-
telling them, like they're still making expansions for that. I didn't actually know it's not even under BioWare anymore. Like it has a new developer on it, like Broadsword, I
Yeah.
think they're called.
mean,
I didn't
can't
even
be-
know that until I booted it up and it had a completely different logo. And like
Probably should
BioWare's not
maintain
even
it.
mentioned on it at all.
Damn.
Yeah, I think they are still making expansions for it. But yeah, it was so weird. Like BioWare's nothing on the branding now, like nowhere. You would
That's
not be
weird.
able to know that they were even involved.
It's probably about to not
It's crazy
be a
that-
BioWare anymore.
of all the expanded universe things to still be getting content, I just can't quite believe it's that MMO. Because it has a
makes a lot of
player
money.
base.
It must be still
Yeah.
be making money. Like I think it's like £80 a year, so probably like $100 a year. They must have enough people to like paying for it for them to not want to
Yeah, and
close it down.
it's never dead if you go on it. If you go on it, there's always people all over. Like there's
Oh
always
yeah,
people
I was
everywhere.
on it earlier. Like my server had like 80 people on it, and I'm sure there were more popular servers. I wasn't going for the server browser or anything. It's whatever the game dropped me in.
Yeah.
But like there was loads of people around. Like I didn't feel like it was playing like a dead game. Like it felt super alive. I was in the tutorial area, but still.
It's funny, it's going to end up being one of those days that hasn't like unofficial continuation like old Nintendo games where because like one day it will shut down.
Shut down, and there will be
it'll
like
be
yeah.
yeah, it's going to be like unplayable and it'll be like Star
Yeah.
Wars Galaxies.
I think
Might
the way they
want
actually
some break.
did their content launch was really smart because they don't have to do like an old SWTOR. You know how there's like old World of Warcraft and stuff like that, like how it
Yeah.
was in Season 1 or whatever. They don't have to do that for Star Wars: The Old Republic because you play the releases in chronological order. So the tutorial, I'm pretty sure, has been the same tutorial since 2011. Like you play the first
That's kinda
chapter of the
fire.
game, and then you have to
Gotta go
buy
do
the expansion.
training.
Then you play the next chapter. Yeah, so it's always the same. Like the world,
Tython.
I guess the world doesn't change until you get to that part of the story.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So, yeah, that was really well done. Because I always hate when you start a game like 10 years late and like the starting area makes no sense because like a million things have happened.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm enjoying my time with the game so far, but I am literally like maybe an hour in. I've met Satil Shan. That's where I learned that the Shan family's still going. I thought at first like, oh, is this the granddaughter of Revan? No, this is like the great granddaughter. They keep having kids. What's going on? Like how they all
come
none
to
of them
think
are
of it,
following the Jedi code.
What if the Jedi Order is actually a Sith Order that is hoping to slowly and subtly eradicate all of the Force users from the galaxy through eugenics by
And
getting them
just
to
have, like,
willingly not reproduce? Because you see, like Luke and Leia are strong in the Force because they're descended from Anakin, who's a Force user. So if you just convince all of the Force users to not have kids, eventually you'd think no more Force users. Where are they coming from?
Well, yeah, because I think it's something interesting that's rarely played with because of the code of Jedi having families and how much more powerful they keep getting. And I've started reading the trilogy that I'd not read before called the Corellian trilogy, and it made a really interesting point with Han and Leia's kids, Jason, Jaina, and Anakin, that they're shown more Force potential as children than should be natural. All three of them. And that'll be because, they're descended from Luke and Leia, who are descended from Anakin. It's just like they just keep they stay really, really powerful, and they're like nobody else. And it also said something I thought was interesting that it said specifically, which I'd never seen before, that Leia has the exact same potential as Luke. She just didn't work for it like he did.
She didn't go to Dagobah.
Which is something.
Well,
it's something I've
Obi-Wan
always
says
believed
it.
in, but
He says it in Empire, right? Like there
she
is
has
another.
that power too, or whatever.
Yeah. When
But,
Yoda's like, "This is our last hope," and then Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, there is another." Or it might be the other way around. Yeah.
And it's when Luke is saying, "My father had it, I had it, and you have that power too." In Return of the Jedi, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's how I always viewed it. So I was glad that it was mentioned like that. Like specifically, it specifically says she has the exact same potential as Luke, which I was quite
Well,
cool.
they're twins, right? So
Yeah,
makes sense.
it
I mean,
makes
they're
sense.
they're not the genetic twins, but still,
Yeah,
as in they're not like a split egg, but still.
I'm still like we were saying earlier. I think there's so much potential that they could do with the Old Republic even now that would work in canon.
Well, they're going back to the Old Republic
we'll
with
see.
FOTOR,
Yeah.
so I imagine we're going to start getting some old. They
Yeah.
drained out the High Republic and realized this is just not hitting for enough people. We got to go we got to go back to the crazy era with lots of Jedi.
Do you think they'll canonize anything of the MMO? Do you think they're just going to completely ignore the MMO? They might actually
Probably
just cancel. They might actually completely kick the MMO out. Like FOTOR could be like 10 years after KOTOR 2, and this would be like, this is the end of the Old Republic as far as we're concerned. And like, everything that happens in FOTOR is gone.
If I had not seen the Leviathan ship in the trailer for FOTOR, I would tell you, no, they're just going to let Old Republic go. They're going to do nothing. This isn't going to have anything to do with the Old Republic. This is going to be a complete new recontextualization of what the Old Republic looked like, just to make it their own and get people who like it. Because most of the time when they do like remakes or reinterpretations, it's just to flip off fans of the previous iteration. But the fact that we saw the Leviathan cruiser and it looked exactly like it did in the Old Republic makes me think that maybe this new team is trying to bring as much from the old into the new as they can. And there's actually zero reason why they couldn't just canonize literally everything. You know, Darth Bane is mentioned in the Phantom Menace novelization. Do you know that?
No.
Well, Andy's in.
Darth Bane is a
obviously,
George
he has
Lucas
that,
idea.
He has
So is
that
the World
tiny, that tiny appearance in the Clone Wars where his whole appearance has changed, which I have issues with. But you know, he is canon. Much as they don't mention him, he is canon.
That's the thing.
I
don't think the books are canon. I don't think the Drew Carpathian books are canon. But the Rule of Two and Darth Bane are Lucas ideas, and they were mentioned in the Phantom Menace. So there's actually zero reason why Disney could not recanonize the entirety of the Old Republic, and it wouldn't mess up anything.
And whenever he's included, because he's included in like canon, like source material stuff every now and then, like everything, the stuff they release, it's always the Clone Wars design. So I bet that design doesn't fit Bane's story from the EU at all. So it'll probably be like very loose, like, you know, he made the Rule of Two and he had an apprentice, and I think that's probably all we're ever going to get from Bane in canon. It's a shame because I much prefer,
kind of like when
you know,
you find his tomb on Korriban, I think in KOTOR 2. It's just like a few like data entries. Like you think they'll just do like something like that. Just like I guess it canonizes him, but it's a shame that we won't get to see more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Revan is canon, but we don't really know anything about him. Just there was a Sith Lord called Revan. That's all we know.
I feel like they'll approach it the exact same way. It'll just be the same way.
They released like a source book that mentioned him, and in Shadow of the Sith, they specifically have on Exegol, they have the Sith like cultists worshipping Revan at some point. Like they're saying Revan.
That's almost worse. To mention him on fucking Exegol. Exegol is just Droman Koss from Temu, dude. This is.
Yeah. There is a cult of Revan mentioned in the SWTOR in the MMO. So
I knew about
maybe
that plays into the Shadow of Revan DLC. If you get that far,
might be a little
it
might be alludes into that, which is kind of cool to canonize some of it.
I'd like to give that game another go at some point. I don't like the gameplay of the MMO at all.
That's the thing that lets it down.
Yeah, I wish there was like novels telling that story rather than just other stuff, because I want the story. I don't want to play it. Which that was initially how I felt about KOTOR.
There might be like a YouTube video. You know, people do like they do YouTube movies. Yeah, they do gaming movies. You might be able to watch one of them where it's like all the important cutscenes.
I've long considered just like watching something, because I want to experience the story, and I always like to play something, but I can't do that game.
It's a lot of hours.
I thought I might be like that. I thought I might be like that with KOTOR at first, because it took me so long to get into it, because I don't like the turn-based, I don't like the movement, but it's just so good that it's worth it, and I eventually got into it. I went from hating that turn-based combat to like getting into like what characters to use and like what abilities to use and everything. Like, it's so well made that even though it's a type of gameplay I normally don't like, I got really into it in those games.
That happened to me the first time I played Persona 5. I started and I was like, I can't stand playing this. And then within like 2 hours, I was like, I can't stand not to play this. Was it hard to get into Daggerfall, Jular? Or Arena?
Yeah, I bounced off it a few times. Daggerfall I only got into because of the Daggerfall Unity mod. So I tried it a few times on DOS beforehand. And like I played it for like an hour and I thought like, oh, that was kind of cool. But I never like felt a reason to touch it again, because it just felt like so archaic. But then when I could play it on Daggerfall Unity and it was like 60 FPS and it felt a lot more smooth, then I could actually explore like the gameplay deeper than just like dungeon crawling, opening doors and stuff like that. And that's when I realized, oh, there's actually like a really good game underneath what I thought was just like a bit of a relic. And then I guess with like Arena, because I'd already found like a love for Daggerfall, I knew like there's something in Arena that I like, which was like the bones, I guess, that were taken over to Daggerfall. And then since then, I've learned how to play old games, and I'm I'm just very used to playing them now.
Once you get over that little bit of a learning curve for old games, you realize, wow, these older games, once you get over that, are actually way better than a lot of the newer ones.
I really like Ultimate Underworld. Like that came out in 1993 or 1992, and it's like fully 3D. It looks really, really good for the time. Obviously, it doesn't look very good
We're getting
from
an
today's
Ultimate Underworld
era.
video soon.
Possibly. That I was originally going to do an Ultima series, but another channel called Mudula, which is a very similar name, funnily enough, I had already started one. and his is very good. So I felt no need to compete with that.
That's fair. I've had that happen before where I'm like, maybe I'll do a, and then I see somebody else did a really good one. I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I guess
But luckily for me, with yeah, there you go.
I was going to say
go
it's about time to wrap up, and I was going to ask for final thoughts on the Revan book, just to tie a bow on it. Jular, do you have any final thoughts on the Revan book?
Well, similar to yourself, Evan, I feel like I dislike it a little bit more after talking about it more on this.
Yeah.
Like, definitely some things, rub me the wrong way more. And I think it will actually just get worse as I play SWTOR and learn more about the new Revan that they've written.
Hashtag not my Revan.
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel, how about yourself?
So yeah, similarly, I already grew to really not like it, but I remember, and you saying that has just reminded me, when I wrote my review of it, I was giving it a 6 out of 10, and then I finished it, and I actually wrote a bit saying I cannot, like, in good faith, give this a good rating of how many issues I have with it. And it's one of those things that the more you talk about it and the more you think about it, the more you can't justify the bad stuff for the good stuff. And it sticks out more and more. You think about it more and more, and then you think as well, like, what a missed opportunity, what a wasted opportunity for a book about Revan. And this is what we get.
It's a book designed to not be analyzed. Like, on surface value, it's much better than if you try and actually delve deeper than like the pretty words on the page.
First time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but so it might not be one of the worst EU books, but it's one of the most disappointing, I think. And for me, probably the second most disappointing since a particular set of books that turned me off reading Star Wars for like a whole year. So it's really down there for me just for that. Like I said, it's not as like the worst Star Wars book I can think of, Children of the Jedi. It's not nearly as badly written as something like that, but it's just so crushingly disappointing. It's really disappointing.
Quick correction: that Casey Hudson's not the OG KOTOR head writer; is the OG game director, and those are very different positions, and they will change how the game turns out. I think Casey Hudson might do some good work, but we'll see. As for my thoughts on the Revan novel, if you'd asked me before we started talking about it, even before this podcast, if you asked me before we started talking about it just as a group, I would have said, oh, it's pretty good, like a 7 out of 10, because I was thinking of the good parts. After this discussion, I'd have to say like 5, because after thinking about it and hearing your points and remembering the exile and remembering how Mitra, because I feel like when I was reading it, because they named her Mitra Surik, and I always played as like a male exile, I just said, this is not the character I played. And I just completely... Not my exile. Yeah, exactly. I just completely dissociated that character from my experience with KOTOR 2, so I glazed right past it. She died, I didn't even notice. But now that now that it's like a connection was formed in my head, it's like, oh yeah, that is supposed to be the exile from KOTOR 2. And I like it way less now. I like it way less now. Damn.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Kind of a gloomy episode, guys. But thanks everybody.
Imagine going through.
Imagine positive for the next one.
Yeah.
Something we really love.
Imagine going through all that Kreia dialogue just to get stabbed in the back.
Damn.
6 months later.
To be fair, Kreia was warning about that.
Yeah, true.
She should have listened. Yeah, maybe next episode we'll do something really exciting and fun. But that's our thoughts on the Revan novel. This is kind of I guess it's a little bit of an issue we're talking about because FOTOR is on the horizon, and although we're still years out, but I don't know. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, chat. This has been episode 3 of STARCASTERS. I'm really enjoying it. I think we're having a good time. It's bi-weekly, so you should be seeing us in 2 more weeks, 2 more Mondays. I don't know what day that's going to be, but thanks everybody for tuning in. I don't really have a proper outro. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No, thanks for watching.
No, not really. Yeah, thanks.
Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the VOD.
Yeah.
Awesome.
See you
All right.
Watch the next one.
We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.